Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
It is Thursday. We are back. No show yesterday, obviously, in honor of Juneteenth. But we are back in full force today. Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd, Mikey McNuggets here out on the panel. Anthony and Steve are behind the glass today. Earl is in New Jersey. Bull is on vacation. G and J are typically off. So we got a hell of a show packed for you guys. With us three, the two behind the glass, we got Richie, who's live clipping the show from Arizona for the first time ever today. So the full UCSS squad.
Yeah, who is Richie?
We hired a part-time helper for days where Earl isn't here and one of us is out, so we could have someone clip that's not Steve Becker. So Richie Bradshaw is unofficially the new part of the UCSS.
Shout out to Richie. I'll never seen you, never heard about you until now, but shout out to you, Richie.
I was going to make a Richie Cunningham joke, but then realized I'm the only one here that would get it because you guys probably don't even know who Richie Cunningham is.
I don't know who Richie Cunningham is.
Yeah, exactly.
Director Steve's raising his hand.
Steve knows.
Yeah,
Steve knows.
Well, make the joke anyway.
We're the two fossils.
Make the joke
Why
anyway.
would Steve, who is he?
Richie Cunningham was the character in Happy Days.
Okay, Steve would know that.
Yeah.
If Steve
played by Ron Howard, the famous.
Was he the opposite of?
He was the redhead opposite Fonzie.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't remember Fonzie's
real
name.
funny, Fonzie.
Yeah.
Well, we're back. We have a big show for you guys. We had 3 guests on Tuesday. Steve's yelling something. I can't hear what Steve's yelling. It's okay.
You're thinking Potsy.
Oh, Potsy. Yeah. No, well, Richie was too. Richie was a redhead.
All right, you giving Steve too much pub. He need to be seen,
Silence.
not heard.
Silence.
Yeah.
Silence. So,
We're right in his wheelhouse, baby. Happy days.
No, we
Laverne
have,
and Shirley.
a big show. We had 3 guests on Tuesday. No guests today. However, we do have a plethora of topics to get to. A little teaser for next week and what's coming up. I shot Bulls Little League game last night, and I'm not going to tell you who won. I'm not going to tell you who lost. I'm not going to tell you what happened. I'm just going to tell you it's going to be a hell of a package next week when we put it all together. Mic'd Up Bull is an entertaining dude, win or lose, and last night in about 100-degree weather is what it felt like. It was so humid. I got some ASMR clips from Bull that is just might break the internet. I'm just telling y'all right now.
I'm excited.
We'll tell you one little teaser. There was a foul. He was coaching first base, and someone hit a foul ball directly at him. May or may not have hit him. Got to tune in next week to find out.
Is Bull quick enough to move out of the way?
No.
I don't know. He was pretty quick at that softball game last year. He might have dodged it.
You'll find out next week.
Is he back on the hot seat? Is he back on the hot seat?
It's definitely warm. That may be because it was 100 degrees yesterday, maybe because they got smoked, or maybe because they won and it was just hot. But, yes, he is definitely back on the warm seat. But it was a good time. Shout out to Bull and his team. And let's dive right into it. We got guards, we got Cavs, we got Browns. We are monitoring potential news as it unfolds in front of us. But let's get a read in and dive into our first topic of the day.
Yeah, guys, I want to remind everybody that summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more, and you can bet on all of it on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 that you can use to bet on everything from the Finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to add a big winner to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
It was a big win for the Guardians yesterday, Jason. Tanner Bibee looked every bit of the ace you predicted he would be before the season in our bold prediction segment. Where
Still alive.
Cy Young
I got
votes.
a chance.
Still
And
alive.
if he pitches like he did yesterday for the remainder of the season, he absolutely will get Cy Young votes. 12 strikeouts, 1 walk. The most impressive number from his performance yesterday, guys,
6.
20 swing and misses.
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
In comparison's sake, Bryce Miller, who shut down the Guardians lineup on Tuesday, had 6. Tristan McKenzie in his start, we'll talk about Tristan in a little bit, had 3. Those two combined don't even equal half of what Tanner
He said he
Bibee.
had 20 swing and misses.
20 swing and misses against a lineup that's as hot as any in baseball.
Jason been saying it.
And Jason, I'll just pass this to you.
Go
the
ahead.
Guardians needed a performance like that from their quote-unquote ace, and he delivered in tenfold.
Go ahead and gloat a little bit.
I'm not like you. I ain't going to gloat over it. You got to do it again and again and again. But just through injury and where they're at, he has to be their ace. And boy, did he pitch like it last night. We've talked about it before on the show. You got to get through 6. And he did that in the heat. His pitch count was at the point I thought they could maybe bring him out for the 7th. I think it was probably because of the heat is why they didn't. He hadn't even cracked 100 pitches. I think he was like around 93 pitches. So they just went ahead and pulled him. But got them, especially coming off the deflating McKenzie performance the day before. And we know that this rotation is in tatters. We know that the bullpen is on the verge of being overcooked if the starters can't get deeper into games. It was so important for him to give them some length last night. I'd have loved to have seen 7 innings. I'll take 6. And just how dominating he was. Mike, you talk about the swing and miss. Whiff rate is all about, that's one of the biggest measuring sticks in baseball now. It's funny how you change how you measure good pitching. Well, now it's whiff rate. How often can you get guys to swing and miss? And he was absolutely dominating last night. He was exactly what they needed. He's becoming the pitcher that they need to lead this rotation. Gavin Williams, hopefully he shows up soon. I don't even know what to say about him at this point. But Tanner Bibee, if you have game 1 in a postseason series, Tanner Bibee's getting the ball right now for this team. And if he continues to pitch last night the way he did last night, they do have an ace on the staff.
It was awesome.
I like the way you just said that. That's been the biggest question mark. If he pitches I still think they still might need to make some trades.
Oh, they for sure need to make
some
trades.
pitching.
Yes.
But I am confident going into whatever team we have to play for at least game 1 of a playoff series. If he's going to be like that, then I'm locked in. We good to go. I think it was on full display. You kept talking about how he just got a lot of stuff. He got a lot of stuff in his arsenal, and I think we seen that on full display yesterday. I was impressed off the fact that the last time we talked about Tanner Bibee, we talked about how We blamed it kind of on Stephen Volt a little bit because he left him out there for too long, and he struggled in the 6th inning. To see him go out there and close it out like he did and still not allow any runs, it lets you know that he's growing and he's developing. This is what, year 2, right, for him?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it shows you can see the progression. If he continues to climb like this, absolutely he's the ace of this team, and it gives me a lot of confidence. 12 strikeouts. Yeah, that's the boy is nice. Now we can get some other guys going, hopefully they can follow suit. I don't know what we're going to get from McKenzie. Logan Allen's on the mound today. Logan Allen, I don't know what to expect. That's the thing. Tanner Bibee is the only guy when he's on the mound I got expectations for. Yeah. Everybody else right now, I kind of just don't know what I'm going to get.
Bibee's last two starts, 23 strikeouts, 2 walks.
Yeah. He's
good.
And he's been really good over the last 6 starts for Bibee. We'll talk about today's pitching matchup in a little bit. The record favors the Guardians. Every other metric favors the Seattle starter, Luis Castillo, in that sense. And you talked about how you look at pitching now and how much it's changed.
Yeah.
The record's almost irrelevant as opposed to your ERA, your whip, your whiff rate. Back to Bibee, though. In his last 6 starts, so we're going back about a month, give or take. Of those 6, 4 have qualified as quality starts, which is 6 innings, 3 runs or less. The 2 that weren't quality starts, he went 5 innings and allowed 2 runs, so he didn't reach the inning limit, but you'll take 5 and 2. And then he allowed the 4 runs against Cincinnati, which was a decision that maybe was left in a little too long.
Yeah.
I know the Kansas City start, he wasn't great, but you could live with that from a start. You take 2 earned runs in 5 innings. On most cases, you expect more from Bibee. But he's been pretty damn good over the last month. And last night was the best performance he's had. And when he's pitching like that, he's not a big, intimidating, physical presence on the mound. He looks like a regular dude.
Yeah.
His fastball has a little extra juice that I think kind of sneaks up on hitters. Because it comes in 93, 94, 95. He can bring it up a little higher. But guys seem to be a half second late on everything. And I know in baseball, half second's big, but just a fraction late. His breaking ball last night had movement not just vertically, but east and west too in a way I hadn't seen in a couple of starts. And when his stuff is clicking like that, and I'm not sure if it's the weather. I'm pretty sure he played baseball at UCF, so he's a Florida kid, right?
Yeah.
So he's not foreign to the heat. Whatever was working last night, that was an unhittable version of Tanner Bibee. I don't care if the Mariners lineup isn't the greatest in baseball. The Dodgers weren't hitting what he was throwing last night. The Yankees weren't hitting what he was throwing. The Braves weren't hitting what he was throwing. That version of Tanner Bibee could go up against anyone in a game 1 of a playoff series, and you feel confident in. The question is, can we get that version of Bibee night in and night out, or start in and start out's the right word? But that version we saw last night is as good as any pitcher in baseball.
And I think the answer is yes. Now, no pitcher is going to throw that every single game.
Yeah.
Even the best have off nights. But if you, the most important thing is know what you're going to get out of a guy. And I think we're getting to the point. I still want to see him get deeper into games, but we're getting to the point where you know what you're going to get out of him. And if you can say, hey, I feel good about him taking the ball in game 1, it massively changes. You still need to get pitching. You've got to go get pitching at the trade deadline. But if you're not looking for an ace, if you're looking for a number 2 or 3 or 4 pitcher, the price difference is drastic.
Dramatic,
in that and what you're looking for. So that helps alleviate a little bit of pressure that you're not necessarily going out and looking for someone to put at the top of the rotation if you trust him enough. And it's putting a lot on a guy who's only in his 2nd year. And again, of the 3 prospects that we heard about for years, Daniel Espino, Gavin Williams, and Tanner Bibee was number 3
and it wasn't
on
close.
that list. No, it was Espino 1, Williams 2, and Tanner Bibee was 3. And Bibee's turning out to be the best of all of them. Now, Gavin's been hurt.
Yeah, I want to say Gavin's been hurt. So.
But, I mean, what's the number 1 ability?
Availability.
There you go.
And Williams had his chance last year. And Bibee did pitch better than Williams last
pitched
year,
better.
even when they both had.
Yeah.
I mean, Bibee had more opportunities. But it's not like we didn't see Gavin Williams for a prolonged period of last season. And Bibee was the guy who finished with Rookie of the Year votes, not Gavin Williams.
So right now, if looking at the pitching rotation, if we was going into a playoff series, how many of the starting pitchers now are you confident in?
1. I honestly.
Well, you ain't wrong.
I'm getting.
Logan Allen?
Well, no.
You have to feel, you'd say right now Ben Lively.
I was just going to
but
say.
that could change so
But
drastically.
he had the injury scare. He got hammered in his last start, so you kind of need to see it now. You need to see him round back into form. I don't want Ben Lively taking the ball in game 2. I can tell you that. Like, game 4, okay. Like, give me Bibee in game 1. Somebody who's not on this roster right now in game 2, Gavin Williams in 3, and Lively in 4. I can live with that. I don't know that you can trust Tristan McKenzie right now in a playoff series.
That hurts my heart. It really hurts my heart to see what Tristan has fallen to. Like this dude was a stud. Like 2 years ago, this man was. I was saying he might be up there with Bieber.
Yeah.
Like he was that good.
He was supposed to be the ace.
Yeah,
like,
and
he was supposed to be the guy.
now it's just like when he on the mound, it's like, dude, if you don't throw a strike, it might be gone. And like that,
if you throw a strike, it's gone. If you don't,
you're right.
But that's what's so hard to trust.
And he be missing his spots. Like this last start, he was missing his spots a lot.
And that's one of the things as we dug in on the story on him on the tear in his elbow. One of the things that goes is command, and you can't put it exactly where you want it. You miss a little bit with your command, and in the regular season you can get away with some. In the playoffs, man, one pitch can turn an entire game.
Yeah,
and he's giving up so many home runs right now. I don't know how you can trust him to start a playoff game.
You can't. And you go even his start Tuesday. He went 2 1/3. He gave up the 4 runs. He had 0 strikeouts, 4 walks. I dug into it a little deeper because. Against Cincinnati, his stat line looked better than I felt it actually was because of the 2 plays from Tyler Freeman in center field. In the second inning against Seattle, no one runs, right? So he got out unscathed. You look at the inning, no hits allowed, no runs, whatever. These were the 3 outs in the second inning against Seattle on Tuesday. Raley had a fly out with a 99.1 exit velo, deep fly ball. Next batter, Mitch Garver, fly out to the outfield, a 96.8 exit velo. The third batter in that inning, Canzone, I don't know how to pronounce it. Canzone, Dominic Canzone.
Oh, I don't know.
102 exit velo, Ty. It's a home run. It's a fly out at Progressive Field, a home run in 2 of the 30 ballparks. Go back to the third inning, where he did get crushed. Crawford, 105 exit velo. Boom, home run.
Out of there.
Next batter, Rojas, single, 92.8 exit velo. Next, Julio Rodriguez. He got out. 88.8 exit velo, still a hard hit ball. And then Cal Raleigh hits a double, a 106.7 exit velo.
He averaged
So
these are golf shots.
That's what he's throwing.
averaging like
I
98.
mean this in like, I'm being serious, but I'm making a joke at the same time. He's throwing batting practice to major league hitters in a real game right now. And these guys are teeing off on him. You saw it against Cincinnati. You've seen it against Seattle. He's had moments throughout the season where he's getting guys to swing and miss.
Well,
For the majority of his starts, he's throwing essentially BP to major league hitters, and they are teeing off on him.
Well, his outfield better be cooking. They better be cooking that day because, like that, you can't. And it's just a shame. It really hurts my heart for real. Like all jokes aside, because he was really that good, and now he's. Like, is it too late to shut him down and get the surgery now, or is he just like never gonna get the surgery because he decided not to?
Well, no. I mean, no. You could still have to have it. If you shut him at this point, you've lost all of next year, which was the risk. Anyway. So if you shut him down now, he's out. But I mean, it doesn't matter because the longer you wait, the more you're gonna miss. Yeah. So the worst thing you can do now is to have it bleed into 26. So you've already.
How long is he under contract for?
Oh, I have to look it up. We just wrote about it. He's not arbitration eligible yet. I don't remember. I have to look. I have it. Okay. I can look it up real quick. But I mean, it's coming. Like,
he was a guy that had his paperwork written out for him, and all he had to do was sign. And boom, he went down. He
was literally hours away from signing an extension.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
because we've seen the
guy. That's
unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad. You feel bad for him.
Yeah,
you honestly do, because he was. Like you mentioned, right on the precipice of signing a contract that is life-changing, family-changing, generational wealth to a guy now who is at best, a fifth starter in Major League Baseball. Jason, am I being too unfair with the way he's pitching?
I mean, the way he's pitching right now.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like right now,
it's still in there. You know, it's still in there. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know where he goes from here because he's had some starts where he survived and you started to feel like maybe he can figure this out. But ultimately, it just feels like if he wants to get back to being the pitcher that he was, he's going to have to have the surgery. And we've seen it, by the way, when we wrote the story a couple months ago now, Kyle Bradish was one of the other ones, and with the Orioles, who was trying to work through a tear. And now he's shut down again with the same thing. And it just makes you wonder, are these guys just better off having the surgery right away it costs you so much time.
But
ultimately, for the health of your longevity of your career, everybody's having them now. It's not even that big of a deal.
That's what I was going to ask. When
like getting a tooth pulled now.
When they have these surgeries, do majority of them come back and be fine?
Yeah.
Not all, but the majority do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
The majority of them come back throwing harder. Like, Zach and I, we wrote the story. We talked to Brian Shaw, and Brian was joking that he was trying to tear his UCL. He's like, let me tear it, because if it adds another 2 or 3 miles an hour, I'll have give me the surgery and let me be able to throw harder.
Look at some of the best pitchers in baseball right now, like Tyler Glasnow had the surgery. He's been tremendous.
Yes.
Tremendous.
Yes.
In LA with the Dodgers.
And throws 178 miles an hour.
Yeah.
One of the hardest throwers in baseball.
Yeah, and he was one of the guys. The list goes up. Spencer Strider hasn't come back. Like, it's just happening at such a frequent rate now that it's become a pretty common surgery.
But when
it's the time off that sucks.
Yeah, I was about to say, when you get the surgery, you got to miss a whole season, and that's what they don't want to do.
And it's not. Yeah, you're missing. I mean, really, it's really getting to like 16 months, because most times when you perfect surgeries, you can cut down on the rehab time. It feels like
this one's actually increasing.
This one's getting longer.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you have the surgery in April, you're probably not coming back before July or August the following year.
And this surgery is the one that Bieber has to have.
Yes, it's the one that Shane had.
Okay.
So Shane's probably not back before the All-Star break next year in a best-case scenario.
Did he push off surgery too, and then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think his. I don't want to get this wrong. I don't think that his issue was the same as
Tristan's. It was different part of the elbow.
I think it was different, but he had the option for surgery, and I think everybody felt like they had cleared that hurdle, and it wasn't like he was past that point of having to have it, and then obviously he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now with Tristan, I think it always lingers.
Yeah.
It just, especially when he's pitching this way.
Let's take a look at tonight's pitching matchup, and then we'll talk a little bit about the offensive explosion from the Guardians, because Naylor had a great game. Your boy Stephen Kwan hit a home run. But tonight's pitching matchup between the Guardians and the Mariners in the rubber match is Luis Castillo for Seattle versus Logan Allen for the Guardians. If you look at their win-loss record, that tells a very small fraction of the story, and every other metric you can look at. Luis Castillo has been the better pitcher this season, but he's a guy the Guardians beat in the opening day of the season. Jason, facing a guy a second time in the same year, especially in the same half a calendar year, I understand it happens, but who has the advantage in the rematch? Is
Nobody.
it the pitcher, the hitter, nobody?
No, it doesn't matter. The interesting ones are when you see them like within a week of each other, and I think we're actually going to see that because the Jays are coming here.
Yep.
Cleveland was just in Toronto, now Toronto's coming here, so you're going to get a really quick look at a lot of these pitchers again. But, you go in the clubhouse before games, and they've got the start, the most recent start from that day's opening pitcher playing in the clubhouse, and nobody's watching it. They're playing cards, and but nobody's watching the TVs. But they got scouting reports on all these guys. I don't think going from opening day until June makes any sort of difference whatsoever. The weather's different. Obviously, it's a lot hotter now than it was in Seattle
it's
in
in
April.
Cleveland as opposed to Seattle.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think and you've seen these guys enough. Luis Castillo's been around for a couple of years now. Granted, a lot of time in the National League, but he's been in Seattle long enough that you've got a book on him and you've got a scouting report on him, and he's good. He's really good.
92 strikeouts or 92 strikeouts to 20-something walks is an incredible ratio.
Yeah.
Speaking of strikeouts, Tyvus, guy who never strikes out, Stephen Kwan,
Talk
hit a home run last night.
Talk about
He's
it.
up to 379 on the season.
Is it possible to talk about the Guardians without talking about home runs?
No, because they're hitting so many of them, and there's so many people that's contributed. Stephen Kwan went yard. When I was sitting at the radio station and I had the TV on, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and I see he hit it like towards right field, and I couldn't tell if it was going to be foul or fair. And when it went fair, I just laughed. And I thought about how Jay Crawford is going to have to shave his head live on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show when this man bats this 400. It's remarkable what he's doing. I mean, the fact that you go from just a contact hitter to actually hitting a home run, like I was shocked. And it's funny because I was just telling my boys the game before, the bases was loaded and Stephen Kwan was up, and I was like, Stephen Kwan ain't going to hit no grand slam. Like, he might put it in play, but he ain't going to hit a grand slam. And then to come back the next day and hit a home run, he made me eat my words there. So it was nice to see, the power of Stephen Kwan. Now, hopefully we see more of it.
It's real quick, Jason.
Yeah.
It's crazy. He's on pace because he missed about a month. He's on pace for close to 20 home runs this year. Now, he won't get it because he missed enough time. But this was a guy who had essentially no power swing or no consistent power swing.
What did he
in the
have
first 2 years
last
of
year?
his
Like
career.
8 home runs?
7 or 8,
6?
something like that.
No, less than that.
What do you have last year?
Really?
Last year, I actually have it here. Last year he
I thought it was
had
7.
I thought it was 8.
5.
5.
Dang.
Well, whatever it was, he has 5 already this season. He's on pace in a 162-game season, which once again he missed a month, so he won't get. Oh, maybe he gets there, but he's on pace for
What you
about.
mean? Well, this is the new Stephen Kwan. He go yard now.
Well, the metrics.
It's crazy.
The metrics between early in his career and early in Jose Altuve's career were eerily similar.
Yes.
And I remember looking at that and thinking about that in the spring and thinking, oh, Kwan's never going to be Altuve. And that's still a pretty high bar to get to, but I don't know that he necessarily has to be Altuve. But as we talk about like new age metrics in baseball and the way to measure success, OPS is obviously a huge one for measuring just overall quality of a hitter. This OPS is over 1,000. That is elite. Elite.
I'm talking like top 2, 3 in the league level. OPS.
I mean, yeah, Judge is like 1,200 or something like that. But to have an OPS over 1,000 is legit. And like his career OPS is coming into this year were like, I just looked it up, 730 and 710 his first 2 years. And now he's over 1,000.
That's good. That's still good.
It's unbelievable. And, you know, I'm not shaving my head if he does, but I'm with Jay. I don't think he can hit 400 for the entire year.
say it with your chest.
Why not?
Shake your head.
If you that confident.
Yeah, if you that confident,
I
Jason,
ain't that confident. I'm just telling you. I don't think he's going to do it. But
It's gonna be the best show of UCSS. I would.
we will set viewer records if Jason and Jay both agree to shave their head live on air.
I
if
am
he
not
hits
doing.
400.
I mean, I don't have very much left. If I shave it,
It might not come back.
I have to cling to the few follicles I have remaining.
We actually should, and we'll organize this off air. But you'd have to pick if he does, if he doesn't, and there should be everyone has to. There will be, no matter what happens at the end of the season, some people will be punished and the other people will be rewarded. You know what I'm saying? Like we should all take a poll on the yes or no with that.
I mean, the man could hit 380 and have a sensational season and fall 20 points short of 4. Like that's so hard to do.
Over his last 30 games,
397, right?
over his last 30 games,
Yeah.
not 30 days, 30 games.
Yeah.
He's hitting 414.
Okay,
Over
that
his last
beats
15,
130
over
other
his last
games.
15 games, he's hitting 509.
Yeah.
Jason. Over his last 7 games, he's hitting 533.
This is who he is.
He
hitting home runs.
Listen, he's on my fantasy team. I love it. Like I hope he gets to 400.
Listen, Tyvus, our resident Homer on the show, Homer Jason, is now anti-Quan, so I'm not sure what's going on here.
He's anti-home runs for the Guardians anyway. So when he seen Quan do it, he was like,
I'm
I
sitting
gotta
right
hear
field
this
trying to-
man mouth tomorrow.
I'm in right field trying to blow the ball back onto the field.
Well, good luck if Josh Naylor's at the plate, because last night he had a
Oh, my
monster game.
goodness.
2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 3 hits. It's great to see Naylor, after he was in about a month-long, about a 40-game slump, he's kind of start to re-find his swing. And Jason and Ty, when Josh Naylor's hitting at the level he's capable of, and he now leads the team in home runs,
I know.
it adds a whole nother dynamic to this Guardians lineup that makes them so much more dangerous moving forward.
So he did officially pass Jose last night.
In home runs for the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
he is
home run.
19, Jose is 18.
That's crazy because we just talked about it. What was that, last week where we were doing
We break out of his slump.
yeah, and we was like,
We fixed him. We broke him.
I was like, I
we
don't
broke
know.
him, and then we fixed him.
I don't know if he gonna have the home runs but then we was like, he in the slump now. If he come out, if he hitting home runs in the slump, then he should. It's nice to see. I think this is his second multiple home run game this season. It's just nice to have another hitter in there that's hitting home runs like that. And if he continues this up, man, we need his brother to pick up the slack. But him right
Couple
now,
hits last night for both.
yeah, he had a couple hits. But home run wise, I'm all for it. Keep doing it. Get the 50. Go for 50. Why not? You. What is he on pace for right now? What was the number?
Not 50.
It was like 40,
45. That was a few days ago.
I'll
so I'm
take
not
that.
sure.
Yeah.
I can live with that, Jason, because if he hits 45, then it's guaranteed the Guardians finish top 10 in home runs.
Here we go.
Just saying.
When you talk about swinging out of your shoes, that second home run last night, he about
Yeah,
swung
he
out of his
did.
shoes. He saw that hanging breaking ball. Oh man,
His eyes got big.
yeah, that was That was a home run swing. But no, listen, I was never really worried about Naylor because we talked about it, even when his numbers were down, his RBIs were up. He was still driving.
Yeah.
And that's what you need from Josh. The home runs are great, and home runs are part of RBIs, but you need him in the middle of the order. If guys are on base, when Steven Kwan's on base in front of him, he's got to drive him in. And he, even with a terrible batting average, he was doing that. So if he's doing that when he's not hitting the ball well and he's still being productive and still getting guys home, what's he going to do when he heats up? I was never worried about him. He's turned into one of the best first basemen in the American League. It's really kind of a thin pool when you look at first base.
It's not a great first base
No,
class,
I mean,
yeah.
Vladdy Guerrero never really became the player that everyone thought he was going to be. Go back to the home run derby that was here in Cleveland a few years ago, and Guerrero was supposed to be the next big thing in baseball. And he's a very good player, but he hasn't really broken through to that elite status. Ryan Mountcastle in Baltimore is very good. But I'd put Naylor up there with anybody in the American League. So it's great to see, and obviously you hope that it continues. And again, it's the production, it's the RBIs for him. Yeah. How many guys are you driving in on top of it, regardless of anything else? His OPS was like 820. Good, not elite. Good OPS. Mm-hmm. Average is low. It doesn't matter. Home runs are great. Are you driving in runs when you're at the plate? And the answer for him is yes.
He leads all American League first basemen in home runs, OPS, and RBI.
Yeah.
So and those are the three things you need from your first baseman.
So he's an all-star.
Better be.
He has a damn good case to be
an all-star
this year.
Absolutely.
He should be. Absolutely. Speaking of other first basemen, let's get a read and we'll move over to the Kyle Manzardo discussion.
Yeah, guys, tonight we take on the Mariners one last time, but if you want, free shirt day is tomorrow for the first 10,000 listeners or 10,000 attendees at the Guardians game. And there's no better place to get your tickets than Game Time. You can save up to 60% off by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, so much more. You can get a panoramic view of your seat so you know exactly where you're sitting. And right now, the cheapest deal on Game Time is Upper Deck, 546 row C for $32 a piece. Go get your free t-shirts tomorrow. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Your first purchase guaranteed. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and then redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
So to make room for Jose Ramirez coming off the paternity list, the Guardians sent Kyle Manzardo back to AAA. His stint with the Guardians on the major league level, I would say was disappointing, but not terribly disappointing. The power numbers weren't there. He hit 207. Jason, right move, wrong move? Do you agree with the move to send Kyle Manzardo back to the minors to get more consistent at-bats?
No, I'd like to have seen him stay up and play. I think you saw, like, this is who he is. He's a gaps hitter. He's a doubles guy. He doesn't have a ton of over-the-fence power right now, but who else didn't early in his career? Josh Naylor.
Yeah.
And look at Naylor now. So I think it's in there. He'll get to it eventually. I don't look at this as some massive setback that he's back in AAA. Obviously, those numbers don't look great. I felt like he did put together some really good at-bats, though, and he was starting to feel a little comfortable. And I would like to see him in the majors. I think he's going to be a big part of this team moving forward. But if they make a move at the deadline for a more proven bat, that will offset this to me. But I don't look at this as some major disappointment that, oh my goodness, Manzardo had to go back to AAA. I think it felt to me like they were kind of positioning that as a possibility when they brought him up in the first place. And how many times do you see it? A guy comes up, struggles a little bit, goes back down, figures some things up, comes back up, and never goes back to AAA again. And hopefully that'll be the case with Manzardo. I think he'll be back this year. It's only June. It's not even the All-Star break yet. I think he'll be back.
So if he does come back, how are they rolling him defensively?
Well, that's the thing.
He never played the field.
That's what I'm saying. So was he just DHing the whole way?
Yeah, and they talked about playing him in the outfield, which but and it's tough because like Naylor's earned the right to be the first baseman, and if Josh would rather play first than DH, a lot of times you're gonna defer to your veteran on that. But it just feels like you got to create more opportunities for Kyle to play the field. When you go from being a first baseman playing every day to only being a DH, I remember talking to Travis Hafner years ago about how hard that can be on guys when if you strike out, you got nothing to do for 45 minutes. But think about that strikeout. And although baseball games move so much faster now, you're probably hitting again in 15, 20 minutes. But, all you do, you go back down to the cage and you take some more swings. You have nothing else to consume your time with other than that strikeout that you just had. guys can just fester with this. That's why some guys don't like DHing, because they don't do it. That's all they do is hit, and then you got to go back and sit down again and wait for your next at bat when you're not in the field. You would like to see more opportunities for Kyle in the field, and maybe it helps him at the plate find a little bit of a rhythm, just being able to get more into of a routine. But with Naylor in front of him, a lot of times you're going to defer to the veteran.
I was always a little bit confused on how they utilized Manzardo since bringing him up, mostly because, to your point, he just never seemed to get in a rhythm. Even when he was getting at bats, he was moving up and down in the lineup. Yeah. He was never playing in the field. Believe it or not, despite his numbers and his traditional counting stats, 207 batting average, no homers, 7 RBIs, his OPS was sub 600. He's 4th on the team in doubles. Despite missing, and by missing, he wasn't called up when the season started. He wasn't playing every day. He wasn't getting consistent at bats. He has 10 doubles, which is tied for 4th on the team. So he was doing what I think the Guardians expected in that sense. But he didn't live up to the hype of, hey, this is a can't-miss guy, a can't-miss bat that we're going to add to our lineup. He didn't have the power. And if he's getting sent down to Columbus to get more consistent at-bats, he had 9 homers and 102 at-bats in Columbus. Like, he showed power in AAA. Now, granted, I think it was a little over-exaggerated to what their even expectations were for him. But he had 82 at-bats in the majors without a single home run.
Yeah.
You know, it was a stark difference, and it happens to prospects. Jackson Holliday got called up earlier for Baltimore.
He was
the number one prospect in baseball. He was like 1 of 34. So it wasn't a catastrophe to that extent. But I had higher expectations. I'll just be honest. I had higher expectations from Manzardo when he got called up. And even though he showed glimpses and flashes of promise, it never was enough to meet my expectation for them calling up their top hitting prospect.
What is the background on Daniel Schneemann?
A career minor league guy who just figured he's just a late bloomer. He just figured
because
he plays every position.
See, and that's the thing. Like, he got called up, and I don't think he did well last night, but this past weekend he was hitting, and he's been hitting very well. I think he's batting like 300. I think he's batting over 300 right now. Now, limited plate actions, but still. And I think that they had those kind of expectations maybe for Kyle Manzardo. They kind of thought that he'd probably be batting like that. So I think maybe, do you think the fact that Schneemann is batting so well in the lineup that they were okay with sending Manzardo down? Like, do you think that played a part in it?
No, I think it was just when your DH is hitting 200 with no home runs, you're probably looking for more production out of that spot. And, David Fry's obviously been swinging it well. You mentioned Schneemann's been swinging it well. And those guys are more versatile and can play more. David Fry can play catcher, outfield, first base.
Schneemann can play everywhere,
anywhere
too.
in the field. You can literally, you put him second base, shortstop, outfield. You put him anywhere. And the Guardians thrive on that. They love positional versatility and flexibility and guys who can play multiple spots. I don't think Manzardo in right field is a very good idea. They've tried that with Josh Naylor a few years ago and had a horrendous injury out there. Horrendous. So some guys are they are what they are. And that probably hurt Kyle a little bit in this. But to your point about Schneemann, I mean, Whit Merrifield is a prime example of a guy who spent his career in the Royals minor leagues and then at 27, 28, figured some things out and became a late blooming all-star.
Yeah.
A really, really good player.
Yeah.
Like a really
one of the
good
best
player.
hitters in the game in his prime. Merrifield, for a couple of years stretch there, was a terrific hitter. And it's just, that's why this game is so wild, man. It clicks for guys at different ages, at different times in their career, and there's no riddle to figure out when that's going to happen. With a guy like Schneemann, he was 27 now and getting his chance. David Fry, very similar, late bloomer, late in his career. Corey Kluber was a late bloomer, late in his career, sort of figured things out and became a multiple-time Cy Young winner. So and that's why small market teams don't like giving up on their guys, because there's nothing more gutting than to give up on a guy. Go back to, I just lost his name, the third baseman, bounced around, really good defensive third baseman, played for the Yankees, the Blue Jays, was here for a while. Elite defensively, could never hit.
Matt Chapman?
No, I'll think of it in a minute.
Fran
I can't believe I forgot
Reyes is who you think.
But he was elite defensively. And,
no, that wasn't Fran Neal.
But they finally gave up on his bat, and then he goes to New York, and it clicks for him late in his career. And he was never an all-star, but put together some multiple productive years for other teams, and that's gutting to a franchise like Cleveland. Like when they spend all these years investing their guys, they got to get a payoff on that.
So at the trade deadline,
Giovanni Urshela. Got it.
Urshela, there you go.
At the trade deadline, if they decided to trade Manzardo, that would be you'd be.
Oh, that's not happening.
I was just asking.
No, that's not
I was
like,
just asking.
and you know, Bull and I have had this conversation. Like anybody's available. This is a push all in type. But there are other guys that you can trade that other teams would be interested in.
Yeah.
That you don't have to move. I'm telling you right now, he is the Josh Naylor replacement. I know nobody wants to hear that.
What about Rodriguez?
Jonathan
He
Rodriguez?
plays right field, different position.
Yeah, he's an outfielder.
And he's not the caliber of prospect that Kyle Manzardo.
No.
No. Yeah, Manzardo. Yeah,
Manzardo's a top 100. Like, that's a big thing in baseball. If you're a top 100 guy, everybody has a top 100 list. Major League Baseball puts that out. Baseball America has theirs. At The Athletic, we have our guy Keith Law, who does a phenomenal job. He has his own top 100 list. And sometimes there's wide variance between guys, that one guy's 15 and one guy's 62. But for the most part, they're about the same.
And
And
Kyle
it's the equivalent
Manzardo's
of-
on everybody's.
Manzardo
Yeah.
was top 50.
Okay.
It's the equivalent of a lottery pick, Tyvus, in basketball.
all right.
Think of it as he's a lottery pick and Jonathan
that's
Rodriguez
great.
is a second round pick
Gotcha.
in that sense.
Yeah.
We'll move on in one sec, but it is interesting because, or one thing I found interesting in this whole decision is they had other options of guys to at least consider to send down to
Yeah,
make
and
room
that's
for Jose.
yeah.
And one guy I want to bring up real quick, and I forget who tweeted this out, but it was a funny tweet, and I have a question that follows up on the tweet, but essentially said, the Guardians are paying Austin Hedges $4 million to be a vibes guy and an assistant coach.
What do you
And-
think you're paying me for?
I know, but it's in a sense they already have two catchers, Naylor, who I guess in theory they could have sent down as well, but you have David Fry, who's doing most of the backup catching. Hedges, as much as we love Austin Hedges, he is the biggest liability at the plate of probably any real major leaguer in baseball. Phenomenal defensively and phenomenal vibes guy, phenomenal clubhouse guy, and he might essentially be an assistant coach.
Championship.
But like, there's never
championship
been
experience.
There's never been an even thought for 1 second of sending Hedges down.
Well, no, you wouldn't do that to a veteran like
Well,
that.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you would DFA him before you would option
Yeah.
him down. I don't even know if he has any options left at this point. But and I hear what you're saying, and you're right. But they felt like there was such a hole in their clubhouse last year, when last year was a very miserable season, and by their standards, one of the first things that they did was run back out and get him. Like, that's how important he is to the fabric of this organization right now. No, he can't hit, but I don't think it's coincidence that Bo has become
A really
the type
good
of
defensive catcher.
pitch framer, defensive catcher that he has. Sandy Alomar, Gold Glove winner. Austin Hedges is one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. I don't know if he's got a Gold Glove or not. I can't remember in San Diego if he did or not. But one of the very best defensive catchers. Obviously, Vogt was a catcher. Bo Naylor has all the resources at his disposal to be one of the very best defensive catchers in baseball. And the progress that you've seen this year, I believe, is a result of all the people that they have on staff there. And I get frustrated with Bo too, and I say, sometimes in moments of frustration, man, just put David Fry back there and call it. Like, just get some offense back there. But I get what they're doing. I understand why they have Naylor back there every day, why they keep running him out there even though he's hitting 180. But a big part of Hedges' job, I believe, is working with Bo, making him the type of defensive catcher that he is. I'm not sure that Naylor is as good as he is this year defensively if Hedges is still in Pittsburgh or Texas or somewhere else.
I feel very confidently saying he's not the defensive catcher he is if it isn't for the tutelage of Hedges and Alomar and Vogt all coming together to kind of, because that was the weak part of his game coming up.
Yeah.
The bat was the good part.
Yeah.
The glove was the
Now you gotta
questionable
put him-
part, and
you
now
gotta
it's
put
been
him back.
completely flipped on its head.
I put him in the Manzardo category. I know he did have some success last year, but he's still a really young guy.
Yeah.
And early on in your career, there's going to be wild swings of a great play, and you look like you belong in AA, not even AAA. That's just the way it goes. Hopefully, if he gets through that this year, next year he can get a little bit more success. I just think a lot of times we get so reactionary, and me too, you get so reactionary to what you see in that moment, you kind of lose perspective of the bigger picture.
Well, he hit it well yesterday, so
He did.
hopefully
He
we
did.
can just keep it going in a rhythm.
And we'll keep an eye on Kyle Manzardo in AAA. Hopefully he finds a little bit more of the power swing back as he heads to Columbus, face some AAA pitching. And I'm sure we'll see him again on the Major League club this season. And let's do a read. We'll move on, talk a little Cavs.
Yeah, guys, if you need more Guardians talk in your life, don't forget to watch the Ultimate Guardian Show every single Monday with Adam the Bull and Zach Meisel. This week they were talking about Tyvus' favorite player, Stephen Kwan, on his road to hit 400. They'll have a new episode this coming Monday. Be sure to check it out, like and subscribe to the channel, and we appreciate all the support you guys give us on all of our Ultimate shows.
Awesome. All right, let's talk a little Cavs, guys. The Cleveland Cavaliers, as of 11:41 Thursday morning on June 20th, still do not have a new head coach. They fired JB Bickerstaff close to a month ago now and have yet to make a hire to replace JB, even though it could appear that another JB is the front runner and James Borrego to take over Bickerstaff's position. However, we got news yesterday that the Detroit Pistons have fired Monty Williams with 5 years and $65 million plus left on his contract. There are some serious ties between Detroit's president of basketball operations and James Borrego. They worked together not only in New Orleans, but previously in San Antonio as well. Jason's friend, colleague, Shams, has tweeted out that the Pistons are expected to make a serious push for James Borrego. So, Jason, I want to start with you on this one in particular. How does the Detroit head coach opening and the ties between Borrego and Detroit's new president of basketball operations impact the Cavs' timeline and/or search to hiring a new head coach?
I do think it's wrapping up. I think we could. It could come today. The Cavs could have an announcement today or tomorrow. I think, but I'm a little bit surprised that it's at times like. Okay, so let's go back. We talked about I've said multiple times, what's the rush? There is no rush. But now I think that there may be Detroit makes things interesting because, shout out to our Pistons writer at The Athletic, James Edwards, who messaged me 3 or 4 days ago and said, hey, are the Cavs going to get Borrego? Because I think these guys are interested in him. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to fire Monty with all that money left on his deal. And by God, yesterday morning, I was like, James is right. So there is, the interest is real. Trajan Langdon in Detroit and his ties to Borrego. But I think the Cavs are so far down the path in this, it would really take a last-minute blitz. You talk about a 2-minute drill for Detroit to swoop in and try and get them, on top of the fact that this is still the better job. When we talk about the Cavs and Lakers job, which is the better job, the Cavs job, this is infinitely better. Detroit's a mess. This is an infinitely better job right now. So if you're trying to win, he came from a pretty rough experience in Charlotte, I think. Charlotte's just one of the black holes of the NBA. It's just the abyss where careers go to die. And to have an opportunity to work with top talent here, to work with a team that's been to the playoffs, I think has to be appealing to him. So I still think they land him. I think that it's pretty far down the road. But the Detroit thing certainly adds a last-minute wrinkle to all of this.
Why would you?
And by him, he means Borrego. Just so we're all clear, he means Borrego.
Why would he want to go to Detroit?
Because connections.
Familiarity with the people around you and with the people above you.
It makes a huge difference.
In the NBA, especially, it feels like it's who you know.
But you know what the most important thing is? Winning.
Yes. Yeah. I just said Cavs shot a better job.
It's not even close.
No, it's not.
I wouldn't even. I think you make a good point. He just did that with Charlotte. And why would I want to go relive that again in Detroit? Yeah, I know all of y'all, and that gives me comfort. But at the end of the day, if I'm not winning games, they're going to be frustrated and call for my job again.
I 100 million gajillion% agree the Cavs job is significantly better than the Detroit job on paper. I am not going to tell you whatsoever that it's even close because you're taking over a playoff second-round caliber, hopefully championship caliber team versus a team that's coming off a 15-win season. However, and once again, I'm just pointing out the side of it. I'm not making the case. I'm just pointing this out.
Yeah.
You go with no expectations. If you could get them even just be competent, that is something they haven't had in essentially a decade in Detroit. And if you like the young pieces on that team, they do have another top 5 pick. They have Cade Cunningham, who was a top pick last year, 2 years ago, 3, whatever it was. They have Jaden Ivey. They have some young talent. And if you're super familiar with your bosses, I could see a guy saying, okay, there's no pressure in this situation as opposed to walking into a pressure cooker in Cleveland or LA. I can see the appeal of it. I don't agree with it whatsoever, but I can see the appeal. So you say, why would he consider it? Well, I think that's why he would at least consider it.
And here's the counter to that counter is he just did that in Charlotte. He walked into Charlotte to a team with some young pieces that wasn't very good, built them up into a play-in team. Now they got their doors blown off in the play-in tournament, but took a team that was the dredge of the NBA and got them up over 500.
They went from 23 wins to 33 wins to 43 wins in back-to-back-to-back years.
So he's been the rebuild guy. And a lot of times when guys have been the rebuild guy, they don't want to do rebuild again. Now they want a chance to compete with a better roster. And really, you could say that about JB Bickerstaff.
Yep.
If he looks for another job, he'll say, I've been rebuild guy. Now give me a contending team. And I think that's what Borrego will say. I don't want to go back and have to rebuild another team. I already did that in Charlotte. I proved I can do that. I want a team that can win right now.
Counter to your counter to my counter is in Charlotte, he did not get fired for his on-court performance. He got fired because Michael Jordan did not think he was the right fit.
Yeah.
It was an ownership issue with that young locker room. If he goes to Detroit, he has that inherent tie-in and connection to Trajan Langdon, who's his guy, as opposed to being with a foreign owner.
Counter to the counter to the counter to the counter to the counter.
I like this.
All owners are lunatics.
Fair.
And it doesn't matter because Gores is the one that fired Monty.
Fair.
Trajan had nothing to do with it.
Fair.
And you can't trust any owner.
Okay, back to the real topic.
Thank you.
Come on, have another counter.
No.
Counter.
And my counters, let's get back on topic, which is the Cavs' job significantly better than the Pistons' job if you're looking at it on paper. I want to talk about Monty Williams in a second, but before we talk about Monty, because I want to ask you guys if you think he should be a candidate the Cavs do consider, even if it does appear that they're closing the gap between them making a hire with James Borrego. I want to say this because Jason and I talked about this Tuesday after the Cavs show we taped. And I've been saying this all along, but it kind of came to fruition in my mind. And Tuesday was really the day it did. I know Kobe Altman said they weren't going to hire a coach before the draft. And that was what he said at his end of the season press conference. And I hear all the reasons to that.
He said he's not hiring.
No,
He said don't expect.
He said ideally we would have a coach in place by the draft, but that might be a little aggressive.
Yeah.
So he tried to
play both sides,
couch
but
it.
he made it seem like there was a chance, and it still could be, that they don't have a coach by next week's draft. My point is, if after all your first-round interviews, which were virtual, and you brought in at least 3 guys that we know of for in-person interviews last week, how much more information do you need before making a decision on who should be the next head coach of the team? And if you don't know after having all these guys in person, what more do you need to know to feel confident? What about these 3 candidates are you still questioning? And then if you do have a guy in mind, what's the benefit in waiting? Because the longer you wait, the harder it is to assemble an assistant coaching staff, because most of those guys at this point have already either re-signed or figured out. They'll be able to pluck some people, but it becomes harder. If the decision is, well, we want this guy if Donovan resigns, or we want this guy if he doesn't, I have an issue with that, because you shouldn't be picking a coach based on one player. And if you're waiting to interview some surprise candidate or whatever the case may be, bring him in and interview him already. What are you waiting for? I just don't understand any benefit in this process of waiting. And the Borrego case, he's also a finalist in L.A., according to Woj last night, they haven't offered J.J. Redick the contract. Maybe the holdup in Borrego is he's looking at L.A. and saying, well, I don't want to sign a deal with Cleveland until I know if L.A. is going to offer me the deal or offer J.J. Redick the deal. And if that's the case, I don't want James Borrego coming in with Cleveland being his second option. I just think this whole timeline, it doesn't add up piece by piece by piece to me to maximize what's going to happen. Because if you're going to hire a new coach, Tyvis, I want him in there looking at draft prospects. I want him in there discussing potential offseason moves to see how pieces fit into what he wants to do offensively and defensively. I just don't see the benefit in waiting.
I see what you're saying, because it feels like they got so many different variables, and that makes it look like they're hiring the coach for the wrong reason. You want to hire the best candidate that can help build your team that you feel is the best for your team. And it's so many different things that we're waiting on, where you just pointed out the Donovan Mitchell or James Borrego waiting to see if the Lakers offer. All of these different variables make sense, because at the end of the day, if that matters to them, then that's not the guy that you want anyways. So I don't know why they wait. I don't. I mean, my thought was always, if I'm going to take over a team, I need to get there because I need to have input on who I want for the draft to help me build my team or run my offense or my defense or whatever the case may be. I need to be able to be in that room to help make those decisions when I paint out what I want to do. So, yeah, I don't know why the Cavs are taking their time with this.
I think it was Terry Pluto suggested possibly they wanted to talk to Alex Jensen, which makes sense. Jensen's on Dallas' staff. Obviously, their season just ended. And if it's a professional courtesy that you want to reach out to him, he's been a candidate here in the past. There's ties between Donovan and Jensen from their days in Utah. There's deep ties between Jensen and Cleveland. He was the first ever G League coach when they
Charge, right?
Yeah, when they were playing in Canton, when they first acquired this G League team, and they sort of made it their own affiliate. They had a big to-do about it, and Alex was the first guy that was their first coach. So I could understand that, maybe delaying things.
Can I call bullshit on that?
Go ahead.
Charles Lee, who's the lead assistant in Boston, is the new head coach of the Charlotte Hornets, and he was hired like a month and a half ago. You could have interviewed Alex Jensen at any point during the process.
Yeah, you could have. But if you're waiting to talk to him until after their season ends, well, that just ended. You could do it now. But it is getting to the point where, like, you know, the candidates are just waiting to hear back. Like, the guys that they've talked to are now just waiting to hear what's the decision. So I think all of the legwork has been done. The process feels like it's about over. I can't give you a great answer as to why it hasn't happened yet. I mean, it literally could be any minute.
It could be any minute.
It literally could be at any moment. But I do think we're getting close to the end of this, barring some last-minute wrinkle.
Monty Williams.
Well, could Monty Williams be the last-minute wrinkle? And Tyvis, he's now an available coach. He has a more proven resume than any of the other guys they've interviewed. The 2022 Coach of the Year. Do you think the Cavs, take out the fact that they may hire Borrego, Atkinson, or anybody like today. Let's just say he was available from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Is Monty Williams a guy you think the Cavs should consider to be their next head coach?
Sure. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, he's got a great pedigree in this league, and he's done some great things. He just was with the Suns when they went to the finals against
Giannis.
The Bucks. Shout out to Giannis. But if you look at that Phoenix team that he had that went there, maybe you can look at them and say it could be kind of like Cleveland, you know, they had Devin Booker, you got Donovan Mitchell, they had Chris Paul, an aged Chris Paul. Maybe Darius can get back to that type of play style. They had a smaller, undersized big man in Ayton. And you could look at Evan Mobley and say they're about the same thing with that. So maybe you could look at those pieces and say he was able to make it successful with them. Maybe he could do the same thing with the Cavs. And I think a lot of people respect what he's doing, him as a coach, because of his history in this league. So, yeah, you definitely can take a look at him. I don't know what he would say, but, you know.
When a coach gets fired after 1 year, it damages the coach.
Yeah, no kidding.
It damages his reputation around the league. And I saw it firsthand here with Mike Brown. When they brought Mike back and then fired him after a year. And the Monty thing in Detroit's going to have a little bit of a stench on it when you fire a guy with that much money left. And, you know, he basically told you at the introductory press conference he took the job for the money. He turned him down. And Tom Gores gave him a Godfather offer that he couldn't refuse. And finally, with so much money, Monty said, okay.
It was the richest, at the time, It was the richest coaching contract in NBA history.
The Pistons were obsessed with getting him. And when you take a job just for the money, when you overpay to the point, Deshaun Watson in Cleveland.
Hey. The jury's still out on that. The jury is still out on that.
I'm just making a parallel.
No, that's the wrong one.
A guy told you no, and you just threw enough money at him to make him change his mind. Well, and that's what Detroit did with Monty Williams, and it ended in catastrophe after 1 year. I think the Cavs are too far down the road. I don't know. I mean, yes, you could reach out to him if you wanted to. I think that they're happy with the guys that they have. I would be shocked if Monty Williams wound up as coach of the Cavs in a week or two. I would be shocked.
I'd be shocked if he coaches anywhere this year because he's getting $65 million over the next 5 years to coach.
Right.
However, even if that wasn't the case, I'm not really in on Monty Williams as a head coach. Yeah. He's had success at certain points of his career, but when a new president of basketball operations and owner says, we're going to pay you $65 million not to coach my team.
That's ridiculous.
And before that, the Suns said, we're going to pay you $20 million not to coach our team. In the last 2 years, Monty Williams has been paid. Now, I understand it contradicts itself and it doesn't equal all the money. He's paid $85 million over the last 2 years in buyouts.
Well, yeah. It's more like
the coach?
No, but you don't. But I'm saying, like,
it's a massive number.
Who was the coach before Monty?
In Detroit?
In Detroit.
It was Casey, wasn't it?
Yeah, Dwayne Casey. My point with Monty Williams, though, he runs an offense that, in my opinion, does not equate to what works in modern-day basketball. He still runs an antiquated offense, a lot of pick and roll, If you want a different offensive philosophy than what we've had here the last 2 years, he runs a ton of pick and roll. There's been a history, and it didn't happen so much in Phoenix, but it happened last year in Detroit. It happened back when he was coaching in New Orleans of teams and players not quitting on him late in the season, but it's been pretty well documented by the end of the season. A lot of what we saw here in Cleveland this year with JB Bickerstaff and the unrest in the locker room and guys questioning the coaching staff, it happened at 2 of his 3 previous coaching stops, and it may have happened in Phoenix. I just couldn't find it in my search this morning. So I'm actually out on Monty Williams, even though his resume is more impressive than Borrego, Atkinson, Norrie, and whoever else they bring in.
Can I swing this back to Borrego for a second?
Please.
Because when you talk about antiquated offense, it made me think. I went back. I'm going to give you a plug here. When I went back and watched your breakdown of Borrego, it was terrific. I just saw it for the first time a couple days ago. I haven't had time to watch it. Mike did about a 15-minute breakdown. You can see it on UCSS homepage if you haven't seen it yet, of why Borrego is a good fit with the Cavs and why everything that he likes to do fits with the personnel that the Cavs have here. It was really, really, it was really well done. You should go check it out. And that just sort of added to the belief of, Borrego was who I thought from the first list of names I saw, because of his offense before even watching Mike's breakdown, I thought it's probably a good way to go. These things swing wildly. Like, JB was very much a defensive guy, so now you have to swing the pendulum all the way to the other side to go to get the offensive guy. And Borrego's defenses in Charlotte were terrible. I mean, they gave up 144 points in a play-in game. But offensively, they set the franchise record in Charlotte for offensive rating his last year.
For everything.
Yeah, they shoot a lot of threes. They play really fast. Their offensive rating is elite. Like everything that guys today, how they want to play. Your hope is that there is such a defensive foundation here and defensive principles with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I don't know if they're going to bring this thing back or not, but they keep telling teams that they are. So let's, for the moment, believe that, yes, they are going to run this thing back with the pieces that they have. You hope that there's enough of a defensive presence with those two guys intrinsically within themselves of being defensive players that even if the system that's being coached and implemented is not defensive-minded and defensive-focused, these guys can still do the job defensively. If you can add to the offense while not losing, you'll lose there a little bit defensively. You just will.
You will.
But if you can still cling to the principles that have been in place for the last 5 years with JB, 4 or 5 years, you could have a winning formula here.
And if it is Borrego, and it's a big if, but if it is him, they'll play faster and defensively. Just when you play a faster pace, you're going to give up more points because there's more possessions on both sides. So don't look at the counting stats. I'll mention this again, and I appreciate the plug, Jason. If they hire Borrego, we'll break some more of that stuff down on the following show when they hire him. But in his final season in Charlotte, the year they won 43 games and lost in the play-in, they were second in the league in points per game, 4th in three-point makes per game, 6th in three-point percentage, number 1 in assists, number 9 in offensive rebounds per game. With a roster that lacked legit top-end talent like the Cavs would have, they still were 8th in offensive rating, 3rd in assist percentage, 2nd in assist-to-turnover ratio. They played with the 6th quickest pace. They had the 2nd most corner threes and the 3rd most shots at the rim. So you want to talk about a modern-day offense?
Sheesh.
Threes and get to the rim. Mid-range doesn't exist. That's what James Borrego brings.
So Evan Mobley has no choice but to be a shooter.
He could help. Borrego could be a guy that helps his development on the offensive end. You would hope.
He's coming from the Spurs, right?
Spurs. Then he was the head coach in Charlotte. Then he was New Orleans' offensive coordinator last year. And he ran some different stuff in New Orleans than he did in Charlotte. But that's based off personnel, in my opinion, than what he traditionally wants to run.
And it is, when you go back and look at Charlotte, they had a ton of injuries. They had a ton of injuries during his time there. And he was able to overcome a lot of those. And also, it goes back to the point we've made 100 times about the second time around, you should be better. You should be a better coach. And I'm sure he made mistakes in Charlotte that he realizes now, wish I could have a do-over on that one. Well, this is going to be like James Borrego suddenly has become the hottest candidate of the offseason.
Yeah,
and who saw that coming?
What happened to Kenny?
I think Borrego really established himself well. I think he really interviewed well. And it was always between Atkinson and Borrego. Those were the two names. Before JB was even fired, those were the two names that we had at The Athletic as the top candidates for this job, where it was always Atkinson and Borrego. Atkinson had a little bit of a lead, but, Borrego played well in the fourth quarter of the interview process. Because and again, nothing's official yet, but all the feeling all the momentum seems to be building toward Borrego being the guy.
I can see Kenny going to Detroit or Washington.
I can see JB Bickerstaff going to Detroit.
You think he'd want to do that?
I don't know if he would or wouldn't. He's on a buyout. If I'm a coach who gets fired with guaranteed money left, I'm not working until my contract runs out. But talk about
JB got money on his contract still?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he ain't doing nothing either.
He got a big extension a couple years ago.
Yeah.
He's got a couple years
Shut
left.
I think his contract runs through 27.
But there's like a fine line here because I think it's good for all coaches to sort of take a year off, recharge your batteries a little bit, spend some time with your kids and your family, and just sort of cleanse yourself from whatever happened before. It's different but at the same time, you don't want to be out for too long because then it's hard to get back in. And Mark Jackson's a name. There's a lot that comes with him. He's very polarizing for a number of reasons.
He ain't getting back.
But he's also he's probably not. But he's also been out for once you're out for too long, because again, owners are the ones that drive a lot of these decisions, and owners are just big fans with a lot of money.
Has he been out for 10 plus years?
He left in 13-14 or 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then they won.
Because Steve came in
14-15.
Was that Steve's first year? Was 13-14 his first year?
It's 10 years no matter how you look at it, so it's been 10 years.
It's about 10 years.
So we'll continue.
Although Jeff Van Gundy just got back in as an assistant.
He did.
I saw that.
With Ty Lue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hell of a pay.
I did have somebody, I was talking to somebody in the league a few weeks ago who said, Cavs should hire Jeff Van Gundy, and I laughed. He goes, no, I'm serious. He goes, he's brilliant.
He is.
He's brilliant.
He also looks exactly like my uncle.
Oh, really?
To a T.
Hire him.
Well, we should play a game. It's actually a great game.
Jeff Van McNuggets?
Jeff Van Gundy or my uncle. And if you guys can guess which one's which in like random, I'll just cut them out. I'll have Ant photos cut out the rest of the picture.
Get into some field classics.
What are you doing?
I did nothing. I wasn't doing
That'll be a
anything.
game. So real quick, we'll put a wrap on the coaching search and move over to some Cavs free agents. If the Cavs do make a hire, whether it's tonight, tomorrow, over the weekend, we will go live as soon as we possibly can on the Ultimate Cavs channel or here on UCSS and give you a full breakdown of who the Cavs' new head coach is, what he brings to the table, and what you need to know about him moving forward. So make sure you guys stay tuned to UCSS on our YouTube channel for that. As soon as the news breaks, we'll go live as quickly as we can. And let's move on.
Yeah, guys, I want to remind everybody that summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more, and you can bet on all of it on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 to use on everything from who's going to be the Finals MVP to who's going to hit a big one out of the park. All you guys have to do is visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Thank you, Ant. The Cavs are looking for a new head coach, but also the new league year has, I guess, technically begun, Jason, because as soon as the finals wrap up, teams can talk to their own upcoming free agents and extension-eligible candidates about a new deal. We've seen Pascal Siakam already sign his max extension with Indiana. We're going to not include...
I believe he's the only one.
Only one so far, yes. We're not going to include Donovan Mitchell in this conversation. We're going to look at just the pending free agents for the Cavs for the sake of this discussion, and there are 5 of them. And we're going to go through and talk about who we want to resign and who we think we should, and by we, I mean the Cavs, should be willing to let walk this summer. The 5 pending free agents they have, not including Donovan Mitchell, who's extension eligible, once again, he's not part of this, are Isaac Okoro, Tristan Thompson, Marcus Morris, Damian Jones, and Amani Bates. We'll start with Isaac Okoro, Tyvis. Do you re-sign him or do you let him walk? He is a restricted free agent, that is worth pointing out.
When you say re-sign, what number are we looking at?
That's the second.
That's
the second part of the discussion.
That's the sticky wicket.
Because I don't have a problem with Isaac Okoro because of the defense that he brings, and it's not a game by game. He might give you a good offensive performance once every 15 games.
That's a little harsh.
Hey, okay, 1 out of 10.
In the playoffs, it's fair.
1 out of 10. But it's something to say, especially if you hire in James Borrego, and the defense is going to shift a little bit when it's going to be more offensive focused. You still need a guy that's at least a defensive specialist to come in there and still be able to set the tone. You know, he could be a defensive captain. He come in the game and make sure everybody's locked in defensively. Although they're all worried about offense, you still got a guy that's defensive heavy. So I would re-sign him, but I don't know what numbers we talking. So.
Well, that's what all comes down to is the numbers. And I meant to pull this up for the show. When it was Colin Sexton, I did research on how many guys who are drafted by one club and don't reach an extension coming off their rookie deals, how often do they stay with that same team? It's very rare.
Yeah.
And there are some, like Jimmy Butler with the Bulls was one. He stayed, eventually left, but he stayed. I think there was a guy in Washington, maybe Otto Porter Jr. I feel like maybe fell into that category. But it's a low number of guys. Usually, if you don't extend, like last year would have been the time. Obviously, Colin didn't sign.
It's like how
his
Evan's going to sign this
Like
summer.
Evan's going to, thank you. Yes, like Evan's going to sign this summer. That's the time to get it done. And if you don't come to terms then, and you reach restricted free agency like now, the odds of them staying are slim, and the odds of them staying and seeing that contract through are even slimmer. And we saw that with Colin, where he wound up going to Utah in the Donovan Mitchell trade. That was his restricted free agency summer, and they wound up bundling him and moving him to Utah. So the odds in history would tell you that Okoro's probably not going to be here. But I do think that he does bring value, and I know his shot is inconsistent, but he's gotten better every year. And I was totally down on Okoro a couple years ago. And I kind of came around on him a little bit this year, and I know he had a poor postseason, and it was frustrating to see because I really felt like he was putting himself in position to make a lot of money. He's not going to get the contract that I thought at one time he might be playing for. And Tyvis, you're right. It comes down to the money. Ideally, I would like to bring him back. I think he fits a role on this team, but I'm not going to bring him back at $65, $70 million if that's what it's going to take. And he's earned the right. And I'm definitely going to shop if I'm Isaac Okoro, and you've made it this far.
Absolutely.
You had your opportunity to sign me last year, and you didn't do it. So now I'm going to go see what kind of money is out there.
When Jason and I first started the Ultimate Cavs show, one of our first topics was, has Isaac Okoro played his way into a Dylan Brooks contract, which was 4 years or 5 years for $80 million? And we were looking around, and he's shooting 37, 38% from three. He's playing defense at a level that's maybe not in the top tier in the NBA, but it's in the upper echelon of point-of-attack defense. And now, if someone offered him that kind of contract, 4 or 5 years, $80 million, thank you, Isaac, so much for what you've done for this organization.
I agree.
but
Shake his
we
hand.
can't
I
match it.
agree.
Shake his hand and buy him a cake.
With the extensions that are coming for Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, the Cavs are going to be a luxury tax team next year.
Yeah.
And there is no way an Isaac Okoro extension can threaten you becoming a first apron luxury tax team to a second apron luxury tax team. A guy who you are not 150,000% confident could be in your playoff rotation can't be the reason you go from the penalties of being in the first apron to the second apron. So for the right deal, I totally agree with both of you guys. Isaac Okoro would be back on the Cleveland Cavaliers next year. I think in the range of 4 for 45-ish, 4 for 50, I think you could live with that, which is about $12, $13 million a year.
What about 4 for 60?
I have to think hard, long and hard, and it depends on how much the contracts for Donovan and Evan come into play and what you want to do at that mid-level exception. Just because I can't have Isaac put you in risk of the second apron of the tax luxury, or the second apron of the tax luxury.
Jason,
because
4 for 60.
that takes you out of the running for buyout guys. It takes you out of the running for trading certain picks. Jason, 4 for 60, is that? I think that's too much for me.
Pretty. You're really in the deep end.
Yeah.
At that point. You're
4
really,
for 55.
Anything over 50, I'm real hesitant.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm real hesitant.
Yeah.
But the one thing with Okoro, next season, regardless of who the coach is, he's been playing a wing position for the Cavs. I think he's best suited as a two guard. And if you can get a real wing, and once again, easier said than done to
How
acquire.
tall is he anyway? 6'5"?
6'4", 6'5". He's not that big.
Why don't we have
But
tall people
my point
on the
is, if
Cavs?
he's your second guard next to Donovan or Darius in the backcourt who can guard their best playmaking ball handler, that fits his role and what he's capable of way more than what he's being asked to do guarding Palos and Tatums, which he's capable of doing, but he's giving up size in each of those advantage and mismatches.
He was here before Donovan, right?
Yes.
So his first year, he played the two alongside Darius.
Okoro?
And Colin.
You're talking
And
Okoro?
Colin.
Yeah, he was always the 3.
Yeah.
He was always the 3?
Because Colin was here.
Yeah.
Hey.
It was Darius and Colin.
But he's in a perfect world, if he's your 2,
Yeah, he's a 2 to me.
yeah, he's an undersized wing or a very good sized 2 who can guard the other team's
But
best ball.
the Cavs like 2 guys who can create in the backcourt. They don't want – I don't think they would ever want Okoro to be the long-term answer at the 2 because they want 2 guys
No,
who
I'm
can
not saying
handle
a
the ball.
long-term answer, but I'm saying if he's coming off the bench
I
as
see.
that secondary guard,
Yeah.
then it makes a little more sense.
I found that stat finally that I was trying to look up. So this is a little bit old because, again, this goes back to when I was doing it for Colin Sexton coming off a restricted free agency. From 2013 to 2017 in those drafts, 31 players drafted in the top 10 failed to reach extensions when they were eligible. Out of those 31, only 6 stayed with their teams on new deals. So the evidence, and actually Tristan is another example of a guy who did stay. Now that's going back even farther. That's prior to 2013, but Tristan Thompson went through restricted free agency after the championship and signed that monster deal with the Cavs as restricted free agent. And there was a lot of history that went into that, and there wasn't a lot of teams out there that could. It doesn't matter now. Mm-hmm. But from those years, from 31 guys who failed to come to agreement, only 6 stayed with their teams.
Yeah.
So the history is overwhelming that Isaac has probably played his last game with the Cavs, but it's not impossible.
And it depends. Like, he's a restricted free agent, so other teams can come in and offer him a contract sheet. The Cavs have the right to match. It just comes down to the numbers. But I think we're all in agreement. For the right number, you keep Isaac. If it's too hefty a price to pay, you obviously have to let him walk. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. Tristan Thompson, who provided some veteran presence and leadership for this Cavaliers team. Tyvis, will he be back in wine and gold next season?
Are you serious?
Yes. He's one of their 5.
Wait a minute. Let me
hold on.
Which version of Tristan are we talking? On the juice or off the juice? Because that matters.
I'm going to assume it's off the juice.
Can he fake the test next year?
Off the juice, no, he will not be back. However, if he somehow finessed the league and he back on that stuff again, that dude was a player. Now, I don't think he'll be back. I think that whoever the new coach is, they'll probably have some veterans, big men that they are familiar with that's probably towards the end that they want to bring in to help establish the foundation and speak the language that the coach is speaking, to be that veteran presence. And I don't think Tristan Thompson will be that for whoever the new coach is, so I don't think he'll be back.
You're right in that guys have their own. We saw it with Jim Schwartz on the defensive side, and guys he wanted to bring in who are familiar with the
They have
system.
their guys.
Yeah, and you see that over and over. And I'm sure that, maybe if it's Borrego or Atkinson, whoever, there's one or two of those guys. You're gonna laugh at me. I'd bring Tristan Thompson back.
Of course.
I think he is like. I think what he means, he's like sort of the Austin Hedges, not in the fabric of the locker room in terms of the funny comic.
Yeah, very different. That's not him.
No, that's not. But Tristan very much can be a locker room guy. He knows this organization better than anyone. He's been here forever. He can be that Udonis Haslem in Miami, of that guy who means more to you off the court than he is on the court. And I thought they've lost something when he left the first time. He brings a level of toughness and nasty that, frankly, Evan Mobley doesn't have, that hasn't shown right now. But Tristan, I was talking to one of the coaches for the Cavs prior to the playoffs and said, you might think I'm nuts. I think Tristan can hold a role in the postseason. And I was told basically, he hopefully can mess some things up in a good way on the court, sort of muck some things up, be physical, and maybe light a fire under Evans. So I think he does hold a role. You're not paying him top money.
He's getting a minimum contract.
Yeah.
If he playing on a minimum, sure.
I mean, he's going to get max $5 million.
He won't get that. It would be a minimum deal. But it keeps. I don't know that there's a long list of teams that are ready to bring Tristan in. He was doing TV for a while before the Lakers went and signed him. I think for what he could bring to the locker room, I would bring him back.
I feel like, go ahead, because you ain't answered, but go ahead.
Thompson has a role. There's another guy that we're going to get to on the list that I would be more.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, so everything
the
you
next person you say,
Marcus Morris.
I would take him over him, and
now,
it feels everything you just said, except he ain't been in this organization all this time.
So I came down into this exercise. We could ignore Damian Jones. None of us are bringing him back, right? If he gets a contract, he's gone.
No.
Amani Bates will be a Cav next year unless someone offers him an offer sheet. I don't think anyone's offering Amani Bates. So let's spend the last 5 minutes of this on Thompson versus Marcus Morris. Thompson is more of a traditional center. Morris is a stretch 4 or 5. Different roles. If they let go of Jones, they do need a real backup 5, because whether they keep the core 4 together with Mobley and Allen or they trade one of them, you can't just have one real big. So Thompson gets a little edge there. But I think from a toughness, from a mess it up standpoint, Jason, and from a what he can contribute on the court, I think Morris has the edge in the on-court stuff while Thompson has the edge in the intangibles. But from an on-court perspective, the gap between Morris and Thompson is bigger than the intangible gap is from Thompson to Morris. So I would actually opt, if it was between one of those two,
I'm taking
to
Marcus
bring back
Morris.
Marcus Morris than I would for Tristan Thompson.
I agree.
Marcus was a JB guy. Like, JB's the one who wanted to bring. I'm not saying no one else did.
But he took shots at him after the season, which was weird.
Well, that's where I think, like, if you bring Marcus back, I think there's some conversations that have to be had. Like Marcus went on a podcast and said, like, yeah, he felt it in the locker room that there was something off and it was bad with JB. But it was the other thing that Marcus said on that same podcast about with Jared Allen, and he thought he should have come back and played basically against Boston. He said he understood him not coming back against Orlando because Orlando played such a physical style, but he was a little surprised and thought he would be back for the Boston series, which again goes right back to the reporting that we did on Jared in the end of the season. So if you're going to bring Jared back, I think you at least have to have a conversation between those two if Marcus is going to come back, because
You know what the
and I think Marcus said that because he probably didn't think he was coming back.
No.
No, I don't think he's coming back. But even if he did, you know what the conversation is. I said what I said, and it was the truth.
Yeah, and like, not everybody in the locker room has to like each other.
No, and trust me,
I
I've been
guarantee
on
you not
teams
everyone
that
likes
it ain't.
it. Yeah.
It's a lot of
right.
smoke there, but
That's
at
right.
the end of the day, we still got the same common goal.
Pulling on the same side of the rope.
Yeah.
All right, so take that aspect out of it, Jason.
Yeah.
If it was, in your opinion, between Morris and Thompson, which way would you lean? If you can only bring one.
If you can only bring one, it'd be Marcus because of he can shoot threes. We've seen that.
Yeah.
Like, he can do more things on the floor.
He would fit, if James Borrego is the coach, he would fit that style.
Yeah, I would bring Marcus back over Tristan for on-court production. Sure, I just kind of look at this as, when you just look at this as a whole and some of the things that Marcus said, he was sort of talking like a guy to me that knew that he wasn't coming back for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So I kind of
I
assumed
don't
that he
think
was leaving.
I don't know if he wants to come back. That's the thing.
It's a good team that has a chance to win.
Because it's interesting because for him, I think he felt his role, he didn't get the role that he thought that he was promised he was going to get. Like, he thought he'd be contributing
But it's a
more.
new coaching
So
staff.
it's a new coach, and he don't know, which that's kind of what you want, because now you can play yourself back into that to be that guy.
And he's not a starter anymore. I think he understands.
Yeah.
He may have wanted to play more than he did with Cleveland, especially in the playoffs when guys got hurt. But he was bought out of a playoff team last year, and he's bouncing on the league the last few years. Like, he's not the same player he was 5 years ago.
That's what the point I was going to make was he's older in his career. He doesn't have a whole lot of time left.
How old is he now?
He's made his money.
How old is he?
I mean, he's got to be mid-30s.
How old is Tristan?
Older.
He was in the Tristan was in the 2011 draft. Morris might have been in that draft too, actually.
Morris is 34.
Yeah. Tristan and Kyrie were in the 2011
He was.
draft.
They were all the same draft
Marcus
guys.
was in that draft too.
The 14th pick that year.
Yeah. And so you just don't know what's important to a guy at this stage of his career. He's made his money. He's got plenty of money.
But he hasn't got a ring.
He did, but not everyone's driven by that. And I don't know if I don't know him well enough to know. There are some guys that is their quest is I have to win a championship before I retire. I want to go to a spot that gives me the best chance to win. There are other guys who want to play close to home.
Usually it's, from what I remember, it's all about the money, and then when you get towards the end, if you haven't gotten the ring yet,
wanna win.
now you want that ring to say, I completed my career, I made my money, and I also got a championship.
But not everyone is driven by that.
Correct.
Some guys just want to play close to home, or for whatever reason, there's certain places that they feel more comfortable where they want to go.
Where is he from?
I don't know him well
He's a
enough to
Philly
know.
guy.
What's that?
From Philly?
Philly, I believe.
I don't know him well enough to know like what drives him and what's important to him at this stage of his career, so I can't answer that.
He is from Philly. So
And his brother's playing where? What team?
And home doesn't
Marquise,
necessarily mean
Washington?
home doesn't necessarily mean where you were born.
he's with the
either.
Mavs.
Oh.
A lot of guys want to go to the South. A lot of guys like playing in Atlanta. Some guys like playing in Phoenix. So it's different things are important.
How's the Cavs on the appeal to a free agent?
Some things are different to different guys. Listen,
They got Max Strus
they got
last year.
Strus. Like that was a big deal. Like
Yeah.
it really was. Cleveland for decades has struggled with free agents
Forever.
to get free agents in. Yeah.
No, Ty, you're laughing. This is actually like what Jason's saying is not wrong.
I know from a
Jason's
Brown
right.
standpoint, but I didn't know from the Cavs standpoint, you know?
The Guardians struggle with it. I've had people in that organization tell me that they struggle with
We
it.
got to make Cleveland more popular. We got to build some skyscrapers downtown.
You know what helps? If Donovan resigns.
Well, if you
I mean, yeah, but
to be able to retain him when he didn't ask to come here, you traded for him and called for him and brought him here for him to say of his own accord, I want to stay. The Strus contract was a big deal. Like there was other interest in him, and he was one of the top free agents on the market last year. Now he's not an elite superstar.
they could have
but
kept
he's a
him.
good
We
player.
got Sam Merrill. We good.
But Strus is a good player, and he chose to come to Cleveland. Those are significant moments that didn't happen for decades before. So, and that's a credit to this franchise for being able to lure those guys in, because for years, free agents were not coming here.
I think Cleveland is just misunderstood. I think once you come, you appreciate it. You know, it's like, man, it ain't that bad, man. It's actually all right.
I can attest, as someone who had never been to Cleveland before I got here, it is so much better than it gets credit for. And everyone who's visited me since I've been here has left with that exact same sentiment. I love Cleveland now, and I'm guessing every free agent that comes here, unless they're dying to get back to a coastal city or to more warmth.
I mean, it
Feels
ain't,
the same
it's
way.
not Cali or nothing like that.
No, but you know who else said that? It was Dave McMenamin when he came here from L.A. Like, Dave moved from L.A. to come cover LeBron in 2014. He was in his mid-30s at the time, probably, single. And we had tons of conversations where he was like, oh, God, Cleveland, I don't know about this. And loved it. Absolutely loved his time here. And obviously he's back in L.A. now. But it's just a special place to him.
I feel like for an athlete, like it's a nice place because the fan bases they're looking for somebody
They will
to clean.
love you
they
forever.
looking for some. They want you to go out there and just play hard and give it your all. Like they will love you forever.
Go ask Channing Frye and Richard Jefferson how they feel about Cleveland.
Channing Frye posted 17 different tweets yesterday about the championship parade. Yesterday was the anniversary of the parade.
Yep.
He posted 17 different videos from the parades.
No, yesterday was of the game, of Game 7, wasn't it? It was Game 7.
No, Game 7 was 6/17.
Oh,
I thought it was
Yesterday
Father's
was
Day. Yeah, or it
Yeah.
was Father's Day that year.
Yeah, yesterday was the championship. Channing Frye was posting
I should
tweets.
know that. I was
Galore.
there.
I know, you were there.
That's a shame.
And let's move on to our last Cavs topic after a quick word from Game Time.
Yeah, guys, so it's summertime, and there's plenty of tickets to go buy. Whether it's a Guardians game or concerts, I think I have like 11 or 12 concerts lined up, and I get all of my tickets now through Game Time. It's great. You can save up to 60% off by buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. They're all in pricing, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. Is great. You get a panoramic view of the seat you're going to buy, so you never are surprised by anything through Game Time. It's fantastic. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and you can use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but just create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And over the weekend, we heard for the first time since he was let go as head coach of the Cavaliers from JB Bickerstaff. He was on a radio show with Brian Scalabrine and someone else who I'm drawing a blank on.
Frank Isola.
Frank Isola from the New York Daily News, right? New York Daily News, New York Post.
I don't know who he's with. I think he just does radio now. Sirius
Frank
XM.
Isola, who's on Around the Horn,
Yeah.
plus Brian Scalabrine, and he had a comment that was interesting to say the least. Ant, when ready, let's hear from JB Bickerstaff.
This is the guy that was taking shots in his ribs so that he could go out and play, right? He was playing through pain. He wasn't complaining. He was still playing 40-plus minutes trying to go out and get it done. So give him the opportunity to learn from it. Now, if something happens multiple times, and, then I think you have the opportunity to critique. But if a guy in his first chance in the finals trying to carry a team, and be honest, his team was outmatched by the Boston Celtics and, still made it the challenge and still performed at a high level. Now, room for improvement, sure, but give the guy credit for the job that he did.
Now, that's interesting. He talked about getting a shot in the ribs, which, as Jason and his colleagues at The Athletic reported, is something that Jared Allen did not do during the Cavs playoff run. And then about an hour after that clip made its way onto social media, Donovan Mitchell took to his Instagram account and posted this, which is a picture of him and Jarrett hugging. I'm not sure if the hand placement is intentional, but it's right around the ribs, Jason.
I think it's more the hug.
More the hug. Now, we had the report last week. We had the report last week that Donovan did not want the Cavs to trade Jared Allen because they're good friends. He likes having him as a teammate. Jason, did you take what JB said as a shot at Jared Allen, and then how do you take what Donovan posted in response, or was it a response?
I think Donovan, it was a response. And listen, we've reported at length. It was basically Donovan or JB, and the player's going to win that every time. So we know how that went down. I was surprised by JB's I can tell you with 100% certainty, JB loves Jared Allen. Like, I talked to him multiple times about JA, and just even when he was hurt, how much he loved the guy and what competitor he was. So I have a hard time believing that he was taking an intentional shot at Jarrett, just knowing how much he does like and respect him. But that was a wild it was a wild comment to make, sort of unprompted. So I'm really sort of torn on where to come down on that, because it did look like a but that's so out of character for JB.
I know.
It's so out of character for him to do that. That's why I have to think it's like some weird coincidence, because he is not that guy. There are tons of passive-aggressive people in the NBA who would do that. JB's not that guy.
It's not. You can understand your player's decision, for not taking the shot, but still praise somebody else. Because like I told you before, when we talked about it before, everybody's different. You can't judge people off of what you would do in situations. You got to understand that he has his beliefs or whatever his case may be and his reasons, and you got to respect his reasoning. And if you care about him, you understand, all right, I respect your decision. I'm not going to judge you for it. But I feel like when JB's praising Luka for doing that, that tells you that if it was JB in that situation, that's what he's wired to do. That's how he probably grew up. That's how he was raised. If I can get out there, that's what I'm going to do. So I don't think that he's taking a shot at JA. I just think he's praising Luka because that it lines up to what he would do if he was that player. I think that's what that's more of.
I want to issue a correction. Yesterday was the anniversary of them winning. Shannon Fry was posting tweets about the celebration. Hand up, my bad. I apologize.
Gosh.
He was posting celebration pics, parade pics, and so my bad. You guys are right.
It's almost like the guy who
and
covered
then
the
to
finals
answer the
today.
Donovan one.
Jason can't remember his ID 3 out of the 5 days. All right, let's be honest. Even though he was there, his recollection
I
is
lost
not the
my
greatest.
keys in my car.
I know. So
I can't find them. They're in my car somewhere.
like today.
Yeah, right now.
So you-
My point exactly. But back to the JB Bickerstaff comment and the Mitchell response.
What? So your car just is unlocked.
Oh yeah. Well,
It's in this garage.
but I have other keys with me now. But I do have a fob in my car somewhere. I can't find it.
Have you gotten under the seat?
He'll find his keys. We will help Jason find his keys.
He wants to get back on top. It is a funny story, but he wants to get back on top.
I do because I have a point.
Go ahead.
You know better than I do, but I was in the locker room, I would say, for 30 games this year, regular season and postseason. I would say from my own 2 eyes, my own personal observations, no one had a closer relationship than Jarrett and JB. Like, those two were like this.
Loves him.
Like this.
Loves him.
So
yes, that's accurate.
when I heard that, I was like, no way.
Right?
No way is he taking a direct shot at Jared Allen. There's no way. Then I listened to it again. It's like, well. Then I listened to it again. I'm like, well, damn. Then I listened again. I was like, holy shit. Then I listened again. No. And I went through this whole cycle and a roller coaster of where I know these, like, they are tight.
Yep.
To then he just put them on effing blast on national radio.
You think he would do that?
No, I don't. But I don't know how you listen to that and not connect the dots.
That's exactly where
and
I
then to
am.
hear, and then to see the response from Donovan Mitchell, who, like I said, it came out last week. Mark Steiner had reported that Donovan is telling the Cavs that he does not want the Cavs to trade Jared Allen because they're really good friends. They play very well on the court together.
So that means that he's resigning. He's
So,
resigning.
but to see the response, to see the response from Mitchell made me think that Mitchell took it as a shot that JB was taking at Jared Allen, and that was his response. And
I can wonder.
it is crazy just because the way you see it in the locker room, I don't think it was intentional, but I don't know how you hear that and not take it as a shot.
I bet you, I don't know this, but I'm willing to bet a good amount. I'm willing to bet a good amount. JB has sent JA a text about it.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
To clear the air, like I didn't mean it like that.
And to show how
probably right.
not passive-aggressive JB is in most cases, A, he doesn't like doing media, but like when Jason asks a dumb question in media, he'll just say, Jason, you're an asshole, or Jason, I'm not answering that question. It happened many times this year. It did.
They were intentionally like.
I know, but that's what. But like,
questions.
I know, and I say that like
Yeah.
in jest. But if he didn't like something, he'd kind of give it right back to you.
Oh,
He wasn't passive aggressive in. Well, just look at the like he wasn't a passive aggressive
No,
answer.
he and I had a very different relationship from how it started.
So
but
we've
yes.
seen him be
Yes.
very direct
Did y'all
in
like each
responses.
other?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Jason,
You know,
JB.
it's rare. It's rare nowadays
for anyone to like me.
Yeah.
but my point is there's tangible evidence of JB not being a passive aggressive guy
Yes.
in situations where he very,
Yes.
very, very clearly could have been passive aggressive, and knowing their relationship, I don't know how you don't take it as a shot, even if it wasn't meant to be a shot.
I also
No pun intended, because we're talking about shots to the ribs.
I also think Donovan is a PR master.
Oh, 100%.
He is.
Yeah.
He is so good at the PR game,
Oh yeah.
and this is an opportunity because he's taken a lot of heat for getting JB fired, and it's true. He can run from it all he wants.
You got to make sure you mention that every time.
Well, because
Donovan wanted this.
He did, and like you can't run from it. That part's true. But he also, I think, this is an opportunity for him to see like the.
He wins the fans over
Yes.
because it's like,
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
all Cleveland. I
Like,
want
yeah,
all my,
I
I'm sticking
got
up
you,
for
buddy.
my guy.
He's gone. We don't
Yeah.
have to worry about him anymore. I got you.
Yeah.
I do think there's an element of that to it. I 100% believe there's an element of that to it.
Well, did he win the fan bases over with that?
Of
Yes.
course.
Exactly. Now,
The player always wins.
but you know who? You know what really win him over? When he put a pen to the paper.
Yep.
That was you.
Now,
You didn't even need to do all of
He
that.
did post on Instagram this morning. He was en route back to the United States. I'm not sure where he was on vacation, somewhere international.
Putin Bay. Didn't you see the video of him in Putin Bay with the mountains in the background?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah,
Is he
that was
Putin
good.
Bay?
No.
I was
He
about
was
to
somewhere,
say you
somewhere in the
are.
Swiss Alps, but someone tweeted, "This is Putin Bay, whatever it is." I gotta get over it. I still never been there.
You never been to Putin Bay? I've been a couple of times. I had a wild story, and I was with my girl was there. She's now my wife, obviously, but she was there with me, and this girl rode past me on like this golf cart, and she said something. I was with a group of friends. She said some very explicit stuff, and I looked right at my wife. I looked at my wife. It's like, did you see that? Did you hear what she said? Wow, wild times. At
Yeah,
Putin Bay.
if you make sure
Wild
if you
times.
go in the summer, make sure you're up on your shots. Speaking of shots, get all your immunizations and everything.
It's a wild
It's-
explicit.
It
It go
Appreciate
down.
the advice.
Yeah.
All right, now we got to talk a little Browns to wrap it up here. Give us one more break, and then we'll get into some Brandon Aiyuk rumors.
Yeah, guys, I don't have any more reads left for the day, but I just want to say, remember, like and subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube. We appreciate all the support you guys give us. It lets us do everything. Don't miss any of the Ultimate shows. If Borrego does get hired sometime after today's show or tomorrow before the show, we'll go live with an Ultimate Cavs stream. So make sure you have notifications, like and subscribe. We appreciate everything.
Awesome. Tyvis, you good? Or just fixing his IFB? All right, there was a rumor that came up earlier this week that the Cleveland Browns and San Francisco 49ers could, in theory, be trade partners for Brandon Aiyuk. The 49ers have yet to commit long-term money to Brandon Aiyuk. Amari Cooper's entering the last year of his contract. The Niners don't seem keen on paying Aiyuk $30+ million a year, which is what he is apparently asking for. So, Tyvis, I'll start with you on this. If the Brandon Aiyuk rumors are a possibility, does it make sense for the Browns to try and acquire the second-team All-Pro receiver from the San Francisco 49ers?
See, this is the thing about this. You know, does it make sense from a field standpoint to have two young wide receivers locked up and have a quarterback locked up and be able to build that chemistry? Yes. But see, this is the problem that comes with him is if you trade for him, you got to pay him.
Yep.
That's one. And if you pay him, who's not getting paid?
Yep.
And are we ready to see specific names that we care about walk? That's essentially what we're going for because you got to pay your quarterback. You already paid Judy, and now you got to pay another wide receiver top tier money. Is it worth giving up? Is he worth maybe losing out on some defensive players? Maybe you can't pay Martin Emerson. Maybe you can't pay JOK. Like it's certain guys that will be affected by that move. And I don't know if he's that good enough for me to give up all of those extra pieces, if that makes sense. Don't get me wrong. He's a really good player, really good wide receiver, very athletic. But I don't know if I'm willing to part ways with other key pieces on the other side of the ball for him, if that makes sense.
Jason?
I'd like to know this before they sign the Judy extension. Like, they had to know this, right? Like, they had to know the Aiyuk status and situation before they – because if you can trade for Jerry Judy or Brandon Aiyuk, I think you're trading for Brandon Aiyuk.
Now, the price is very different.
Yes.
Sure. But Ayuk's the significantly better player.
Yeah, and I don't know from San Francisco's standpoint, why do you do that? Why do you acquire Amari Cooper?
Because he's only on a 1-year deal, though. 1-year deal.
And if he does want an extension, he's a shorter, cheaper extension than Brandon Aiyuk.
If I'm the Browns, I do it in a second, and I love Amari Cooper. I
Yeah.
do that in a second.
Ayuk's better than Cooper. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yes.
He's better than Cooper.
And he's younger.
Yes.
So,
And you essentially got your offense. You got 2 wide receivers and your quarterback and your tight end for 4 years.
and you're already all in on Deshaun, so
Might as well go all in.
give him every option you can. And I hear what
So
you're saying.
are you willing to part ways with the other people on the other side of the ball?
If you have to give up JOK to get Brandon Aiyuk, yes. And in terms of like contracts, yeah, I do that.
I don't think he'd be the only one.
I don't know that.
Ayuk's going to get – he's asking, according to reports, for about $30 million a year based off the new wide receiver hire.
JOK had a monster year.
Yeah.
And he is a terrific player.
So just for argument's sake, let's say potentially you had to get rid of MJ Emerson and JOK. You couldn't pay neither one.
I picked somebody else besides Emerson because Earl will drive here.
All
from
right, well,
New
Earl
Jersey.
ain't here right now. Earl
You're
ain't
losing
here.
one of your guards. It's one of your guards, and
That's true. Yeah.
If it's a guard and JOK,
You just drafted a guy from Michigan.
Zinter.
Yeah, Zinter from Michigan.
I'm not worried about that. The guard spot, I'm not worried about. I'm trying to think of the replacement at linebacker.
But you're probably losing
I know
Chubb. You're losing Chubb,
linebacker.
too.
I know linebacker. Well, it depends on what version of Chubb you get, anyways.
Because linebacker is the least
It's
prioritized
the least,
position
yeah.
on the defensive side. Yeah, I
But
do
he
it.
was so good last year.
He was phenomenal.
I
He was
mean,
so good, so
and the
good.
Houston, he was the only person that actually showed up.
No, he was so good. All right, so the way I looked at this, on paper, the Browns and 49ers are a match made in heaven for this trade. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying on paper, it's a match made in heaven. In theory, San Francisco could flip Aiyuk, who they're not going to pay, for Cooper, and it'd probably be Cooper and a pick. I'm not sure what round, but Cooper and a pick. You get a guy and a receiver in Amari Cooper who's extremely productive. He's number one receiver in the NFL. You get a pick. You don't have to pay the same length and/or money that you would to Aiyuk. You keep yourself in that championship window. He probably gets a shorter extension. It is what it is. From the Browns, they get a better upgrade at their receiver one. As you mentioned, it locks them in with Judy. It gives you all this offense with Watson, yada, yada, yada. It makes perfect sense. Does Aiyuk put the Browns in a different tier than Cooper does? Like, how big is that gap? I'm not sure it's a giant gap in 2024. Like, I don't think Ayuk's significantly better than Amari Cooper. He's definitely better. But I don't think he's significantly better in 2024. However, my guy Alec, when he first sent me this tweet on Tuesday, sent me that first tweet we showed about the rumor. And I said, well, how would you pay Aiyuk? And he goes, I don't. I just bring him in and say all in 2024. So my head then went to this. The Browns do not, and let me make it very clear, the Browns do not have the draft capital unless they want to give up another 2 first-round picks, which I can't imagine Andrew Berry doing, to acquire Brandon Aiyuk without also giving up Amari Cooper. Can we all agree with that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, in a world where Andrew Berry takes a playbook from Les Snead and says, F them picks,
I mean, he's done it twice.
and they could get Brandon Aiyuk into this clubhouse without giving up Amari Cooper, let me tell you about what could be the best offense the NFL's seen in the last decade plus. A receiver trio of Brandon Aiyuk, Amari Cooper, and Jerry Jeudy is now your 3. You have Elijah Moore as your number 4 receiver. That's the best wide receiver room in football. Plus David Njoku. Plus Nick Chubb. Tyvus, you played safety in the league. You know how much easier it is to run the ball against the soft box versus the heavy box when there's only 7 guys because they can't allocate that extra safety to stop Nick Chubb. Mm-hmm. You still have an offensive line that, while is getting a little older, is still playing at a very, very high level. If Deshaun Watson's even half the player we saw in Houston, with the weapons he would have on the outside, with Nick Chubb in the backfield, with the offensive play calling and mastermind genius, combination of Stefanski, Dorsey, Tommy Rees, and the rest of the offensive minds they brought in, we're looking at an offense that could score 35 to 40 points a game. With that defense, that was the number one defense in terms of points per game allowed last season, which that may not continue in 2024, but I have no reason to believe it's going to take a significant step back. You push all your chips in for 1 year, make 2024 Super Bowl or bust, and adding Brandon Aiyuk to that offense gives you a damn good chance to win and hoist the Lombardi Trophy next season.
Are you insinuating that the Browns should trade their first and second round pick for Brandon Aiyuk?
I'm very tempted. It's never going to happen. In a million years, it will never happen, but I'm very tempted.
You do know you need a left tackle after this season, right?
Yeah. Just re-sign Jed Wills.
Are you okay with that?
If I have Brandon Aiyuk, yeah. Because I don't
Get the
have
ball out in 3 seconds.
I don't have a better option. It is what it is. Like, you got to pick and choose.
Run to the right, get the ball out quick.
You got to pick and choose.
I'm just asking. These are the questions that you got to ask.
I said I'm
yourself.
tempted. I'm tempted. That offense would be so dynamic.
If you were to trade Brandon Aiyuk for Coop, I'll hear that. What was Ayuk's year last year? Not last year, the year before that. What was
He had 1,000 yards and I think 6 touchdowns.
So has he been 1,000 yards outside of his rookie year? He's been 1,000 yards.
No, he's played 4. He's been 1,000 yards each of the last 2 years.
Okay. See, Coop is guaranteed. Like that's.
Now, but last season,
I would say.
and Steve, if you go to the Cooper versus Ayuk comparison graphic, it's 2 down. He had a better year than Amari Cooper last season. Made second-team All-Pro, and that's in an offense where he
With
is
Deebo
probably
Samuel,
the third option
Christian
offensively.
McCaffrey.
Yeah.
He's a better player. Like, Amari's great. Ayuk's a little better than Amari Cooper right now.
I tell you what, I need to see how this offense look because if they still ran the same offense that Kevin ran, he'd be perfect. Because I think Kevin and Kyle kind of run similar things.
Yes, they do.
That bang 8 that we talk about with Coop, he does the exact same thing. So it would be actually perfect. He transition over and pick it up and be able to do it right away. However, now that the offense is transitioning to more of this spread style, obviously that gives him more space and opportunity. I just think I mean, I don't have a problem with Brandon Aiyuk at all. I think he's a good player. Like I said, I think he's very athletic, and I tell you, it gives you your receiver moving forward. But all I'm telling you is you have to say bye to somebody.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
You can't re-sign him.
Somebody that you care about, that you admire, is probably gone.
You actually bring up a really interesting point, though, that people disagree with you. I said the same thing. This is San Francisco's offense. Kevin's trying to run San Francisco's offense in a lot of ways. But Brandon Aiyuk has had a ton of success, obviously, in offense, but if you're changing that offense, is he going to be the same player in a different offense? Typically, talent emerges.
I think he's talented.
It's a fair question, though.
Yeah, I feel like he's athletic enough. I mean, you got to look at it like Stephon Diggs, perfect example. He left Kevin Stefanski's offense that he runs currently, and he went to the Ken Dorsey spread offense, and he was still successful. So I would imagine that he can be the same. Is his route running as good as Stephon Diggs? He runs really good routes, and like I said, he's fast and he's athletic. So I feel like it could transition in a Ken Dorsey's offense. It just will look different to him.
I hear what you're saying about like go all in on 1 year, but I actually think an Aiyuk deal lengthens their window because you're trading a 30-year-old for a 26-year-old receiver who should have 4 to 5 prime years still in front of him. Obviously, you have to resign him.
I was saying go all in by keeping Cooper in the trade and push to. But in a theory, flipping Cooper for Aiyuk, I do agree with you. It lengthens the window.
It extends your and I think Miles is 28 now. I'm not sure when he turns. I think he's 28. I don't know when he turns 29. But you give yourself a couple shots at this, a couple more shots at this. But this is not a young team. The Browns are not a young team anymore. Like, they have guys who are aging, and the window is shortening, and there should be some urgency here. Now, if you got a quarterback, you should always be in it, and we'll see if they got a quarterback or not. I don't know if they do or not. I don't know, but by bringing in Aiyuk, you give yourself a couple more cracks at this. With Amari, you're running out of time.
Ayuk's really good. And if you didn't watch a ton of 49ers games last year, and even if you did watch, he gets lost in the shuffle just because they have Christian McCaffrey and Deebo and George Kittle and Purdy, and they use everyone. It's an equal opportunity offense. But when he got his opportunities to shine, he was dynamic. Second-team All-Pro, 1,342 yards, 7 touchdowns.
Do you know if he showed up to OTAs and stuff?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, me either. I tell you what, It all comes down to that rookie that they drafted, that Ricky Parsons. If he's good and he's making plays in like preseason and training camp, I think they'd be more. They'll move off of Brandon because if they're not gonna pay him, which he's saying that they're not gonna pay him, they'll be fine with it. It'll be like Ricky can do the things that he does.
This comes into the leverage play though that we talked about last week, or maybe it was Tuesday. Having Wednesday as an off day really makes really makes everything feel like different time. But we talk about who is the leverage, the Browns or Amari Cooper. In the instance of Aiyuk and the Niners, I think it's a really different leverage divide than it is in Cleveland with Amari because of Amari's age, where the Browns are at. The Niners were in the Super Bowl last season. They're probably the favorites from the NFC to get back to the Super Bowl, if not the overall favorite outside of Kansas City to win the whole thing. And they need Brandon Aiyuk because they go with Debo and Brandon. A pretty big drop-off with Pearsall being the big unknown there, Tyvis, to their third receiver. Mm-hmm. And he's a critical cog in their offense.
I still think the team holds the leverage in every negotiation, especially in the NFL. The team has the leverage.
Well,
until proven otherwise. You get blown out in week 1, that's proven otherwise.
I mean, they ain't got to pay you. That's the thing. With Brandon Aiyuk situation, I think the Niners definitely have it because they got a first-round pick that they got to depend on at some point anyways.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance Aiyuk sits out?
No.
No?
Now, what is he on, his 5th-year option? That's what he playing on?
Yeah.
No.
And again.
For what? For what? At the end of the day, I'm playing for my next team. Now, he might fall into one of them situations where my hamstring a little tight. Am I going out there? No. No, I'm not.
It does make you. There is a part of me that pauses though, because I've talked about this before. When you're dealing with guys on teams that have had X number of years with this guy, if they don't want to pay him, why? Why don't they want to pay him?
I think I read something yesterday. It's not that they don't want to pay him. They know they have to pay Purdy.
Yeah.
And Trent Williams wants. They have to choose very carefully who they pay and who they can't pay, which the Browns are going to be in that same situation very shortly. But I agree to your point.
I think you need to dig a little bit deeper just to make sure.
Yeah.
Because if there's a team who's got a really good player, and yes, you can't pay everybody. I get that. But why are you picking the guy that you're picking that's not who you're going to pay? I just think you need to do due diligence on that and just make sure before you pull the trigger on that.
I wonder, and Ty, you played for Kyle Shanahan. I wonder if you asked him and gave him truth serum. They gave Debo Samuel that big extension last year. Mm-hmm. If all things were equal, who would they rather extend, Debo or Aiyuk? Ayuk's missed one game in the last 3 years.
Well, the thing about the Debo thing is when he was getting that extension, wasn't it something that came out that was like, first of all, Kyle was all for getting him his extension. I know that from firsthand sources. Kyle wanted him to get the extension. But Debo was talking like he didn't want to do the running back stuff no more. Like he just wanted to be a wide receiver. And I don't think they utilize him like that as a running back
as much.
Like I think they really dialed down on that.
I'll look it up.
From last season. I really don't recall him really getting a lot of handoffs like that last season. So if you're just going to tell me that you was going to pay him as a running back, like the reason he was able to even sign the big extension is because of all the things he was able to do. But as a pure wide receiver, talent-wise, obviously Brandon Aiyuk is a much better route runner and all of those things than Debo. Debo is just he's a physical wide receiver. He's essentially a running back at wide receiver. He gets the ball in his hands. He runs people over. He does really good with yards after catch. He breaks tackles, stuff like that. He reminds me kind of like a Golden Tate. You know, when Golden Tate was playing, you get the ball in his hand on a drag. Jarvis Landry when he was Miami. You get the ball in his hands on a drag or something like that. He breaks tackle. He could take it a lot further than that. That's kind of what I look at when I see Debo, where Brandon Aiyuk actually runs routes, break people off, break your ankles, stuff like that. Create separation on routes. So he's the better wide receiver. But overall, Debo's a better football player.
You're right, by the way, in 21, which was the summer, or he played 21, then got the extension. 59 carries. Next season 42. This season 37.
Yeah, see,
so
because I think he said he don't really want to do that. Like he don't.
It's tough on his body.
Yeah, he don't really like doing that.
Last thing on Aiyuk, Jason. Then we'll wrap this up. If the Browns were to acquire Brandon Aiyuk, him, Judy, and Njoku Is there a better trio of pass-catching options in football than that? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but Ty, the same thing for you. Is there a better trio of pass-catching options than Aiyuk, Judy, and Njoku?
I mean,
Yeah, well, you'd probably be the Texans.
Dell, Diggs, Collins?
Yeah.
I couldn't put the Browns number one just because I'm not sure what you have in Judy. I'm just not sure, and
Fair.
I want to see Njoku in this new offense.
Fair.
But it's up there. I mean, it's for sure. Those are
That'd be
should
dynamic.
be 3 talented
That'd
guys.
be dynamic as
and
hell.
if the,
I mean, they still are with Cooper and Njoku and
I would have
Judy.
to put the Texans one, depending on the availability of Odell. I'll put Miami second.
That's fair.
Yeah, Miami.
That's
I feel like there's another one we're missing. At least one more.
It's not the Bengals no more because they got a rookie.
Yeah, they lost.
They lost Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, it's true.
All right, you want to give us a super chat? Then we got one last thing to wrap it up here with.
Yeah, and Steve just wants to remind everybody that the Bengals are a poverty franchise.
Thanks.
Our one super chat today comes from Michael Ribovich. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. It says random tidbit: Guards have won 4 games at exactly 8-0.
All right.
That is interesting.
I got a funny text I want to read, but go ahead.
Who won 8-0?
The Guardians have won 4 games,
8-0. What, this year? Or like what's the
Just this season, apparently they've won 4 games.
4 games, 8-0.
8-0.
Okay.
Just an update real quick. And this is from WKYC. Lonnie Phelps was arrested in Florida on a DUI charge. He's probably gone.
I'm gonna say what that name sound. Is that the corner?
Defensive end for the Browns.
Yeah. He
So
was
he's
arrested on a
probably-
DUI. Yeah, he threw.
He gone.
Yeah, he threw.
All right, what's your text?
During the show, I got this text. And you know how you get like weird spam text now?
Yeah.
I can't tell if this is a spam text or if this is really a miscommunication text. Hello, Dr. Lena. My puppy has a poor appetite and vomited slightly since last night. It doesn't seem to have much energy. I want to know the reason for these symptoms. I hope my question will not bother you. It's the last sentence makes me think it's spam, but I could play vet here for a minute. Like, should I just text her back and say,
What's the look at the number? Look at the number.
470 number?
But is it if you open it up, is it an actual phone number? Or is it one of the ones that has like 7 digits?
No, it's an actual number. It's a real number.
Well, if she's texting, or if she said her name's Lena.
No, the doctor's name is Dr. Lena.
Okay. Well, if this person is texting you at 12-ish during the show, the vet's probably working. So it could be a made-up meeting. But I say you play vet.
Should I give him some advice on what to do with the dog? I can't be responsible for killing no dog.
This is funny because I get those type of messages
Right?
too. and
Steve is
and
saying
just
don't do
delete
it.
them.
Don't do it. Well, Steve's a nice guy. I'm diabolical. I kind of want to be a vet.
You gonna give it advice?
I'm gonna give her advice.
You gonna kill?
This is Lonnie Phelps' field goal last night, according to TMZ.
Oh my goodness gracious! It's on the curb and almost in the building. Think he missed the spot.
Steve, I'll hold it up in a sec so you can take it.
He does.
That's that is overshoot. That's overshot the landing.
We'll see that. That'll hit today at 4 p.m.
Oh my goodness!
That he gets cut.
Browns released Steve before about probably not
He
this
probably
week.
wasn't making the team anyway, if we're being honest. Their defensive end room is loaded.
Well, he just made it easier for
And he
him.
definitely,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's.
You wanna
Don't
know-
drink and drive, please. Do not drink and drive.
I'm not playing vet. I'm telling you. You got
I was
the
going
wrong
to save
number.
this for overtime, but I want to get you guys' thoughts real quick. Bo Naylor is playing shortstop today in the lineup.
No, he's not.
that
What? What?
Yeah. Hold on. I'll pull up the. It's from the official Guardians account.
No way.
I swear, it's from the official
That's-
Guardians
no,
account.
that's
I-
typo.
That's Brian Rocchio, not Bo Naylor, bro.
Oh, I must have seen a fake tweet. Never mind.
Yeah, you
I
got.
should have saved it for overtime.
You got.
You
got.
got-
I got.
Yeah, that's not that. That would. Happen.
Okay, so what you saw was real,
It was just a typo, wasn't it?
and then they posted take 2, and the second picture next to the lineup is what the heck is Bo Naylor doing at shortstop? The Guardians posted this meme, so they did screw up, and you did not get got,
Okay.
but it has been corrected. Bo Naylor is off today, and Brian Rocchio is playing shortstop. The lineup against Luis Castillo, Steven Kwan, Jimenez, Jose's DHing, Naylor, Fry's catching, Brennan, Schneeman's playing third, Freeman in center, and Rocchio playing short to close up the lineup. Castillo, one of the better pitchers in the American League.
Logan Allen going to get 5 strikeouts?
No.
5?
No. I would take the under on that.
That's funny. Did y'all see? Did I see Justin Timberlake got arrested?
Yeah.
He also had a DUI.
Yeah, don't drink and drive.
He had all kinds of stuff in his system. He had a lot more than alcohol.
I heard somebody told me he said he had one martini or something like that.
Look at those eyes in that mugshot.
What I hear? Dang, call an Uber, man. See, this is why you got to just be like Tyvus. Just don't do nothing. Drink lemonade, man.
Oh, yep, it's a spam text. I should have played vet.
Now you need
It
insurance.
said,
Car
I said, I'm sorry you have the wrong number, and they responded, sorry, I got this number through the pet website, but I have closed this website. Maybe you're right, it's wrong. I think I should check this number. I hope you can forgive my mistakes. It's some Ukrainian hooker. That's what that is. Yep. Yep.
We have a
Now
minute.
they've got my number.
We have a minute. Let me tell you, you guys know I've talked about this before. My best friend, he'll be the best man at my wedding, is an assistant coach in the NBA.
There's something you need to tell us about this wedding?
No. When I get married, he will be. But I'm setting that up because
You and I are out, Tyvus.
we talk very frequently, and we were on the phone yesterday when the Monty Williams news broke.
Yeah.
There's no better feeling in the world than breaking NBA news to an NBA assistant coach. I swear, I've never felt better
You broke
in my life.
news to an NBA coach, you say?
I was talking to my best friend, and I have Woj notifications on. Like, they don't know this stuff before. Like, NBA coaches learn a lot about their own teams via Woj and Shams. Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I'm serious. And we're on the phone yesterday talking about some draft prospects and stuff like that. And I'm going to do a whole video breakdown later this weekend on some guys he told me to take a look at. But I broke the Monty Williams news to my best friend who is on an NBA staff. And he was, first off, his jaw dropped because I'll tell you guys why after. He has a different connection. He was like, that makes a lot of sense. But there's no better feeling in the world, and I highly recommend if you can do it. You have a best friend who works in the NBA, and you can tell him what Woj tweets before he gets it. Highly recommend it.
The most powerful currency is information.
Yeah.
And I don't think people have any idea how much the top of the top newsbreakers and powerful national reporters, how much leverage and juice they have in the league. Teams will call. I've had teams call me to ask what's going on, and I'm not at the top level, but it's all
Because you don't want to work that hard.
I don't want to work that hard. That's right. It's all about information, and you have information, you have power.
I learned something from this show today.
What'd you learn?
That as an analyst, would you consider me as a football analyst?
I consider you a football media analyst.
I consider you a media member.
Shut up with that. y'all need to cut that out. As a football analyst, the NBA has done a phenomenal job of hiring people out of the booth and coaching.
Do you want to coach?
If they're going to fire me and give me $65 million to sit at home, I will gladly come right out of the radio booth.
Ain't no better job in America than a fired coach.
When I was 5 years old, it was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I should have wrote a
fired
fired SEC football coach.
Ed Orgeron.
Jimbo Fisher has the best. And Monty Williams has now become
What time
the PTO
you want me
king.
going and what door you want me out of?
Yeah.
Two different teams. And we got overtime coming up. What's coming up in overtime? We're going to wing it?
Yeah, we're probably just going to wing it, I'll be honest, guys. I was saving the Bo Naylor shortstop thing, but I got. So
No,
I'll take the L
Guardians
on that.
play.
I got you. I got you.
All right, thanks, Jason.
All right, peace.